My Star Empire. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26: The End of the War. While the Empire and the Alliance were fighting, no one noticed that a streamlined small spaceship took off from the Alliance's capital star. The speed of this spaceship was surprisingly fast. It flew to the edge of the capital star system in a few hours and entered hyperspace in a flash. After the Empire and the Independent Alliance army divided the captured spaceship equally, they set their sights on the distant capital star. Pal of the Independent Alliance army suppressed his excitement and led the warships to fly towards the space station. He wanted to kill those damned congressmen with his own hands. He wanted to execute all the relatives of these congressmen. To everyone's surprise, the space station did not make any attacking moves, but instead fired white flash bombs and turned all the guns to the side. Did these congressmen surrender when they saw that the situation was hopeless? Pal couldn't help asking himself. The transport landing ships of the Empire and the Independent Alliance slowly docked in the port, and countless Marines dressed in power armor swarmed out and quickly occupied various strategic locations in the port. But it was too smooth, and there was no resistance at all. The Marines didn't even fire a single round of ammunition. There was no other way. The Marines could only advance into the interior of the space station. It was not until they entered the transit hall that they realized why they had not encountered any resistance along the way, and they had not even met a single living person. It turned out that all the staff and guards of the space station were gathered in the transit hall, standing in the hall with their tentacles raised high, and their weapons were scattered in the corners of the hall. Only many of the congressmen had disappeared. These guys must have fled to the capital planet and hid. Pal was furious. Finding 12 congressmen among the 5 billion people of the capital planet was like looking for a needle in a haystack. As for the facial recognition system of the camera, it was a joke. This thing was set up by these congressmen. He was the first one to not believe that they didn't even have any evasive measures. "Captain, I know where the congressmen have gone." At this time, a surrendered staff member said weakly. If it weren't for the silence in the hall, you could tell if a needle dropped. No one would really hear the man's voice. "Hurry up and tell me. If you tell me, you are no longer a prisoner. I will pardon you," Pal said to the man happily. "I am from the logistics department. The congressman secretly transported a large amount of supplies to a secret location a day ago. They may be hiding there." After that, the man handed Pal a piece of paper with the address on it respectfully. Mingze on the side was very surprised. What era still uses paper? After confirming the location, everyone took the landing ship to fly towards the target location. The sky was followed by a large number of aerospace fighters. These fighters were spoils of war obtained from the spaceport. After the soldiers of the Empire and the Independence Alliance took over, they were sent to escort. The secret base is located in a reservoir, but now the water in the reservoir has been drained, leaving a huge hole under the reservoir. Looking from the air, you can also see a huge object that looks like a launch pad. The landing ship was suspended above the huge hole. Dozens of soldiers jumped off the landing ship. The backpacks on their back sprayed air and slowly landed the soldiers at the bottom of the hole. The guess was correct. In the center of the cave was a huge launch pad, and overturned transport vehicles were scattered around the launch pad. Pal and Mingze came to the launch center and read the log in the system. They found that half a day ago, these congressmen had taken their families and fled on the test aircraft. They must have gone to other member states, Mingze said. In fact, he didn't know where these damn congressmen had gone, but it was definitely right to let the Independence Alliance and other member states go to war. Humph, it's useless for them to escape to any place. If other member states don't hand them over, I will beat them out. Pal, who was blinded by revenge, was easily fooled by Mingze. He angrily flicked his tentacles, got on the battleship and took off. Now the Independence Alliance army has controlled 3 star systems. Pal needs to go to command and expand the results until the entire alliance is completely unified. Then let the Sith Empire taste its own power. Of course, Mingze, who liked to read novels before crossing, hated the protagonist the most when he let the enemy go back to the mountains and waited for the enemy to cause him more trouble. So he had a plan for the Independent Alliance, just waiting for the Independent Alliance to jump into the pit. The blitzkrieg launched by the Empire against the Parker Alliance lasted for nearly a month, and finally ushered in a brief peace. The Independent Alliance and the Sith Empire signed a ceasefire cooperation agreement in the former Alliance capital, the Edge Star, which is now the territory of the Sith Empire. The Independent Alliance ceded 16 star systems including the Edge Star to the Sith Empire. The Independent Alliance will move the Alliance population on all planets and the factories on the capital star to the 3-star systems they now own within 6 months. In addition, the Empire will also obtain the income of all mines in the territory of the Independent Alliance within 4 months. As a price, the Empire will fully support the unified operations of the Independent Alliance. In addition to providing fleet combat, it will also help the Independent Alliance share logistics and construction tasks, of course, for a fee. The signing of this peace agreement was called by later generations as a piece of fat meat, discussing the ownership of the meat in its mouth with a tiger. Through this war, not only a large number of star systems were obtained, but also many unique technologies of the Alliance were obtained through the analysis and research of the wreckage of the Alliance warships, which made the strength of the Empire's warships even better. 3 days later, in the capital of the Empire, Sith, people held high the flag of the Empire and gathered in the streets to cheer and celebrate. The entire Sith Star became a sea of joy, and people were immersed in the joy of victory in the war and gaining a large amount of territory. Some radical young people even revealed the tattoos of the Empire's logo on their chests. People's enthusiasm for joining the army is unprecedentedly high. However, at this time, the atmosphere in the Imperial Cemetery was a bit dull. A Marine soldier walked slowly in front of the rostrum, holding an urn sprayed with the Empire's flag. The team holding the urn was endless. According to statistics, a total of 53 light cruisers, 8 destroyers, and 5 transport ships were lost in this battle. The total number of casualties reached 16,321. Nearly 20,000 Sith warriors died in a foreign country, which made Mingze feel very sad. The death toll in combat was just a number, and he didn't feel anything at all. But when he witnessed the soldiers sending the ashes to the cemetery for burial, witnessing the grief of those who lost their loved ones, Mingze couldn't help but shed 2 lines of hot tears. He cried. Yes, he cried. At this moment, he felt that these soldiers were not just numbers, they represented families. But if you ask him if he regretted it, he will tell you that he doesn't regret it. Ask those parents and wives who personally sent their children to join the army, do they regret it? Although they may hesitate, the result must be that they will not regret it. Because this is the price that must be paid for the rise of a huge empire. It is the pain of growing up. A few days later, Mingze handed over the vaccine information of the virus to the Independent Alliance, and the Independent Alliance quickly popularized the vaccine to the entire alliance. It's not that Mingze is kind-hearted, but if everyone dies, who will be slaves? Under the operation of the Independent Alliance, the vaccine exchanged a large amount of supplies with the old alliance, and the entire star field ushered in a brief peace. Chapter 27: A Brief Peace. A month has passed since the end of the war. The road to the new galaxy is still very busy. Countless spaceships carry immigrants and supplies to the new galaxy. Countless citizens of the Empire have embarked on flights to their new homes. Because there are too many planets to receive, hundreds of millions of people are needed to fill the vacant planets. The population is so large that even if the Empire's transport ships are running non-stop, it takes a full month to transport. After obtaining a large number of new mines, the mining station construction plan was placed on Mingze's desk. There is only one purpose for building so many mining stations: to prepare for the next war. Taking over the original Alliance shipyard in the new galaxy has doubled the Empire's shipbuilding capacity. If there are enough minerals, the number of Empire's warships can be doubled in 3 months. At the border of the Empire, this is a huge green planet, temporarily called Green Star, and the entire planet is covered with dense plants. The dense forest breeds endless birds and beasts. Everywhere you look, there are dense forests, but there is one place where even the dense forests cannot cover it. Many tall castles stand in the vast forests. These castles are very majestic and tall, and each castle has a different appearance. The tallest one reaches more than 2,000 meters, like a spear piercing the sky, and even the lowest one is more than 500 meters. When the Empire's exploration and research ship arrived here, it was shocked by these magnificent buildings. Unfortunately, the Empire is extremely short of population, so there is no immigration to this planet that is not only beautiful but has no value to the Empire's war. How to use it? Well, you can develop tourism and transform these castles into a modern amusement park that integrates food, accommodation and play. The surrounding forests can also be used as hunting grounds, and people who like adventure can go there for leisure and vacation. I wonder if the meat of those animals is delicious. Li Ming slowly touched the non-existent beard on his chin and thought leisurely. Gu Xiaosha jumped into Li Ming's arms and arched in his arms for a sense of existence. Oh, are you afraid that I will ignore you? Little silly. Li Ming rubbed its soft and smooth fur. Tianyi, pass the order down. Within 1 month, transform Green Star Castle into a state-of-the-art amusement park. Pay attention to its safety protection. Yes, Your Majesty. Li Ming watched Tianyi walk out of the room gracefully and secretly thought, it would be great if Tianyi was a real person. High energy warning ahead. Words from the author's later works. The first time I wrote a book, I didn't grasp the heroine well, and I basically didn't write about it later. The rest of this chapter can be skipped. It has no effect on the plot. You may feel embarrassed after reading this short paragraph. 1 month later, Green Star. Today is the day when the amusement park opens. The clouds of war have faded, and a short sunny day has arrived. This amusement park welcomes citizens of the Empire from various planets. Chu Xiaoyan is one of the citizens who traveled thousands of miles to this remote planet. Since the accident on the new home planet 3 years ago, she is still lively, but she is very disciplined. Even though her uncle is the administrator of the amusement park, she can enter through the employee passage with just one word. But she didn't. She chose to line up at the gate. In addition to abiding by the rules, you can also experience the atmosphere of many people here. You know, the atmosphere is very important when you go to the amusement park. Ah, you stepped on my foot. Chu Xiaoyan stared at her beautiful big eyes, and her small nose wrinkled slightly in dissatisfaction. Sorry, I was careless. How about buying you a drink to make up for it? The young man who stepped on her foot turned around and kept apologizing. However, after seeing that the person he stepped on was such a beautiful girl, the young man took the opportunity to offer her a drink. Huh? It's a bargain for you. I want to drink Yangtze milk tea. Chu Xiaoyan didn't expect to earn a drink for free, and immediately smiled and said. The young man shrugged and left the team, turned to the cold drink shop next to him to buy 2 cups of milk tea, and returned to the team. Yes, this is your compensation. It won't taste good if the ice melts. By the way, are you here alone? The young man asked carefully after handing over the milk tea. Well, I finally got a month's vacation. My best friend went home to accompany her boyfriend, so I can only come here alone. Chu Xiaoyan's tone was a little sad, and she didn't realize that she was being tricked. The young man's face was happy, and he quickly replied, what a coincidence, I also came here alone. How about we two be companions? It's fate that we met. Chu Xiaoyan nodded. It would be much more boring to play in the amusement park without someone to accompany you. Since the other party had invited him, and the young man, although not handsome, was quite in line with her aesthetics, it would be better to make a short-term friend. After passing the ticket gate, the two walked shoulder to shoulder into the amusement park. Ah, that Sonic speed car looks so fun. Let's go play. In just 2 hours, the self-familiar Chu Xiaoyan pulled the young man's arm and asked. Go. The young man shook his head helplessly. You hold my hand so tightly, I have to play even if I don't want to. After a day of playing, the two people, who were already a little tired, walked into a castle hotel in the park. Waiter, open 1 or 2 rooms, the young man said guiltily, and he almost said what he was thinking just now. A quiet night passed, and nothing happened. Chu Xiaoyan played with the young man for another 10 days. During these 10 days, the relationship between the two quickly heated up, from just holding arms at the beginning, to holding hands, and then arm in arm. Now the two can be said to be close. Unfortunately, there is no banquet that will not end in this world. Chu Xiaoyan's vacation is about to end, and the two are finally going to separate. In the boarding hall above the 2,000-meter-high castle, hey, where's your home? My home is in Sith, the young man's deep voice came. Ah, I'm on the new home planet now. It's not easy for us to see each other in the future. Chu Xiaoyan felt a little blocked in her heart. Thinking that she might never meet again in the future, Chu Xiaoyan couldn't stop her tears from flowing. Unable to suppress her inner emotions, Chu Xiaoyan went forward and hugged the young man, kissed him with her eyes closed, and kissed for a long time until both of their mouths began to numb. The two slowly separated, exchanged contact information, and walked towards their respective boarding gates. Just as they were about to reach the boarding passage, Chu Xiaoyan asked loudly, I still don't know your name for so many days. My name is Chu Xiaoyan. What's your name? Me. My name is Li Mingze. After saying that, the young man lowered his head and walked into the boarding gate. If you look closely, you will find that this young man with a hat is His Majesty Li Mingze, who has shaved his beard and left bangs. Li Mingze? His Majesty the Emperor? No, it's impossible. How could His Majesty the Emperor go to the amusement park? It must be a coincidence. Yes, a coincidence. Chu Xiaoyan, who knew the young man's name, hummed a cheerful tune and walked into the passage. Li Mingze did not board the spacecraft, but disappeared at a corner. Inside the blue brick, Li Mingze took off the descender on his head. Shaking his head, he buried the beautiful memories of these days deep in his heart. If we are destined to meet again, we still have the contact information, right? Hey, Your Majesty is back from picking up girls. Tianyi's figure emerged from the wall and landed in front of Li Mingze. For some reason, Li Mingze felt that her breath was a bit jealous. Maybe it was an illusion. What do you mean by picking up girls? We had a pure friendship, you know, Li Mingze argued. Really? A friendship of kissing for half an hour? That's very pure, Tianyi pouted and teased. You are watching me. Don't run. Before Li Mingze finished speaking, Tianyi's figure disappeared into the air. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, War Restarts. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. No one expected that the loosely connected countries would secretly unite and launch a fierce attack on the galaxy controlled by the Independence Alliance. The fleet of the Independence Alliance retreated step by step and soon retreated from the first line of defense. The Cape of Good Hope Galaxy, the second line of defense of the Independence Alliance, can reach the temporary capital of the Independence Alliance directly by crossing this line of defense. All the warships of the Independence Alliance are gathered here. Sir, we can't defend here by ourselves. The fleets of these member countries are too many. We need reinforcements from the Imperial Army, an officer said to Pal with a heavy face. Help me connect to the Imperial commander. Yes, sir. Li Mingze was lying leisurely in the lounge and chatting with Chu Xiaoyan. 2 beautiful maids beside him handed him cut fruits. Your Majesty, Pal's secret message. Tianyi appeared beside Li Mingze and waved the 2 maids away before speaking. It's annoying. Answer it. Li Mingze told Chu Xiaoyan that he was going to work and quit WW. He put his clothes in order, sat at his desk in a serious manner, and waved his hand to open the secret communication. General Lu soon. When will your reinforcements arrive? It's been nearly half a month. If your reinforcements don't come, our defense line will be broken by the fleet of the old alliance. You won't have an easy time then. They won't let you go, General Pal questioned angrily. Li Mingze replied calmly, our fleet returned to the Empire for maintenance after the war. They set out 10 days ago and are expected to arrive soon. General, don't worry, Humph, don't forget that we are on the same boat now. Pal closed the communication after speaking. Li Mingze pouted, I just want to drag it out and wait for you and the old alliance to fight before I enter the field. I'll see if I don't kill half of your fleet. In fact, the Empire's fleet has been maintained long ago, and now it is all gathered in the Edge Galaxy, waiting for the old alliance and the Independent Alliance to fight before entering the field. White lightning flashed on the periphery of the Cape of Good Hope system, and several unmanned transport ships jumped out, attracting the tracking mines ambushed around. After a burst of explosions, the minefield that the Independent Alliance had carefully arranged was destroyed. This was the mine-breaking tactic that the old alliance learned from the Empire. After confirming that it was safe, the old alliance's fleet jumped into hyperspace and flew towards the Cape of Good Hope system. Due to its limited strength, the Independent Alliance's fleet did not go to ambush, but defended around the space station, waiting for the arrival of the Empire's reinforcements. About to leave hyperspace. 3, 2, 1, a huge fleet consisting of thousands of light cruisers and nearly 100 destroyers appeared in the Cape of Good Hope system. After locking the location of the Independent Alliance's fleet, it changed into an encirclement battle formation and flew towards the space station. The enemy is approaching the range of the space station. The space station weapons are firing. On the reinforced and modified space station, dozens of large laser launchers fired red beams at the old alliance fleet. Dozens of light cruisers in the old Alliance fleet were penetrated by the beams, and a huge explosion occurred. The old Alliance fleet never expected that the firepower and attack range of the space station would be so great. All warships disperse. Advance in an irregular route, shouted the commander of the old Alliance. This evasive route made it very difficult for the beam cannon of the Independence Army space station to aim. After 2 rounds of shooting, only less than 30 light cruisers were destroyed. At this time, the space station also entered the attack range of the old Alliance fleet. Thousands of beams that had been prepared long ago were aimed at the space station and fired. In an instant, the entire space station was covered by countless laser rains, which only lasted less than 3 seconds. The entire space station was melted through and turned into countless fragments under the violent explosion. The fragments produced by the explosion of the space station hit the surrounding warships, making a bang-bang sound. Pal's face was livid. I didn't expect that the space station that took a lot of effort to build was destroyed in less than 3 seconds, and the damn Imperial reinforcements had not arrived yet. The Independence Army also took the opportunity to launch a volley at the old Alliance, but these hundreds of beams were much weaker than the volley of the old Alliance just now. Some officers and soldiers even thought of surrendering. This salvo destroyed only dozens of light cruisers, which was just a drop in the bucket for the old Alliance, which had thousands of warships. Just when the Independence Army was about to despair, a fleet comparable to the size of the old Alliance jumped out from the edge of the galaxy. This fleet was the Empire's first fleet, which was formed by the Empire's crazy dumpling production for 3 months, plus the captured Alliance fleet. All the Empire's warships were equipped with protective shields that could weaken the attacks of energy weapons, which gave the Empire's fleet a slight advantage over the old Alliance. When the Independence Alliance saw its reinforcements appear, it was instantly like being injected with chicken blood. Various weapons began to be fired at the old Alliance fleet without cost. Seeing that things were not going well, the old Alliance fleet launched another salvo, destroyed dozens of Independence Army light cruisers, and turned around to withdraw from the Cape of Good Hope galaxy. Want to run? Not that easy. Attention all warships. Cooperate with friendly forces to attack with all your strength, Pal ordered excitedly. All the warships of the Independence Alliance rushed up in a swarm. All fleets urgently jump into hyperspace. The commander of the fleet of the old Alliance was so nervous that his voice became hoarse. Now the entire old Alliance member states can only gather so many fleets. If the Empire and the Independence Army work together to annihilate this fleet, then the entire old Alliance will have no self-defense ability. The old Alliance fleet quickly started the hyperspace engine and escaped into hyperspace. Li Mingze, who was sitting in the flagship watching the battle, was overjoyed. You know, once you jump into hyperspace urgently, you will drift in hyperspace for dozens of days to several months. During this time, you can completely expand the results of the war and seize more planets. Are you kidding me? Can I spit out the fat meat in my mouth? Before the Independent Alliance could react, the Empire's fleet drove towards the old Alliance-occupied area. These bastards of the Empire are too insidious. No. We must grab more planets before them. Pal soon figured out why the Empire was running so fast. The member states of the old Alliance never thought that their fleet would escape into hyperspace in order to preserve their manpower. If they were at the scene, they would definitely give the commander of this fleet a slap. What an idiot. What's the difference between your jumping into hyperspace and giving up resistance or being wiped out? The entire old Alliance has lost its self-defense power. Many member states that lost the news of the fleet thought that the people of the Independent Alliance and the Empire interfered with the signal, which caused them to lose the signal. They never thought that they had been placed in front of several sturdy men like babies without the ability to resist. Thank you Book Friends 201,703 and for the rewards. Thank you for your support. There are too many people and I can't beat them all. Anyway, thank you all for your recommendation votes. The author will keep it in mind. Chapter 29 The First Landing Battle. Monica held the handrail and looked at the war-torn city below expressionlessly. Today is the first battle of the Independent Free Orbital Airborne Army, cannon fodder. Because the Empire's fleet has controlled the orbit of this planet, after a large number of orbital bombardments, this planet has lost its most basic air defense capabilities. The original mission of using the assault capsule to conduct orbital airborne assaults from orbit has now become an assault on a landing ship. This makes Monica feel a little boring. Monica, who has been trained in orbital airborne for a long time, has already liked the pleasure of falling from space to the surface of the planet in the assault capsule. She almost doubted whether she had some perverted fetish. "Everyone, check your weapons. Prepare to airdrop," Monica shouted loudly to the soldiers in the cabin. Everyone hurriedly lowered their heads to check their weapons. Most of the people here were residents who had lived in the shelter. They had never participated in the war, and some had never even survived in the wilderness full of mutant insects like Monica. But because the Empire does not support idle people, they stood up and used their lives to earn enough supplies for their families to survive. They have no salary, no pension. They will stay in the orbital airborne force forever, and the Empire will provide their families with food, water, and a place to live. Although they know that they will die on the battlefield sooner or later, they have no regrets. They work hard to make their families live a life of being well fed and clothed without threats every day. If they die in battle, their children will still have the opportunity to go to school, and their families will still have minimum protection, but their children must also join the orbital airborne force. It can be said that they are willing to be exploited by the Empire and sacrifice their lives. From time to time, a missile flies across the sky. This is the only remaining air defense measure of the old Alliance resistance force, the shoulder-fired missile. From time to time, a barrage of bullets hits the armor of the landing ship, sparking sparks. Soon the place where the barrage is launched will be wiped out by the missiles of the aerospace fighter. The prepared orbital airborne soldiers lined up and jumped out of the landing ship. Feeling the pleasure of free fall, Monica felt inexplicably excited. She urgently needed a hearty battle. The target is the 100th floor of the building in front. "Everyone get ready," Monica ordered in the team channel. Got it, everyone put their hands and feet together and flew towards the target building like a meteor. When approaching the 100th floor, everyone rolled up into a ball, and the joints of their armor sprayed out decelerating airflow. Dozens of soldiers smashed the glass of the building and entered the room. After a roll to unload the force, the soldiers drew out the rifles on their backs, and a few bursts of fire shot the stunned old Alliance soldiers in the hall one by one. During the whole process, less than half of the soldiers reacted quickly and their movements were clean and neat. Monica frowned. The combat ability of her soldiers was still not good enough. It seemed that learning through the learning machine was not enough. They still needed to be honed on the battlefield. Team 1, follow me, and the other teams will be responsible for clearing this building. Monica held a knife in one hand and a gun in the other, crossed her hands in front of her chest and slowly walked into the building. An opposition soldier rushed from behind the door with a dagger in hand. Monica dodged the enemy by dodging him, stabbed the soldier with her left hand, and shot another enemy hiding in the corner in the hut with a gun in her right hand. After clearing this floor, Monica came to the east window, from which she could see a steel behemoth blocked by a tall building. This behemoth is the Alliance's ground titan. The entire titan is driven by two giant mechanical legs 30 meters thick, surrounded by hundreds of Gauss machine guns, and on the top are 3,380 mm heavy Gauss cannons. Because it is hiding in a tall building and using the Alliance's latest stealth technology and shielding positions, it is simply a pipe dream to destroy this behemoth. Because of the existence of the shielding position, all guided weapons will fail within 1 kilometer of it. What's more hateful is that it is equipped with mirror armor specifically for laser weapons, special coating that can reflect energy beams. Now this titan is hiding in the city, slowing down the Empire's occupation of the city. The mission of Monica's team is to blow up the shielding field generator in the belly of the titan, so that the Empire's aerospace fighters can launch missiles at it. The mission is very difficult. The building where everyone is now is next to the route that the titan will pass. As long as they control this building, they can deliver a fatal blow when the titan arrives. Bang! 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 As the huge footsteps get closer and closer, accompanied by huge vibrations, Monica and others hid behind the wall, holding their guns tightly in their hands, and dared not breathe in the tense atmosphere. The power armor they were wearing well shielded the heat source signals on their bodies. Bang! Bang! The deafening footsteps came to the front of the building. "Everyone prepare to fire, target jammer," Monica ordered in a low voice. Several soldiers with backpacks took out the portable railgun parts from their backpacks, quickly assembled them with the help of their comrades, and aimed the railgun at the belly of the titan, not far away through the gap in the window of the building. Titan was surrounded by a large number of old Alliance soldiers and hovering armored vehicles. Hundreds of Gauss machine guns on Titan were constantly scanning the air, ready to turn the enemies into honeycomb coal. "Fire," Monica gave an order. Soldiers holding railguns pressed the switches one after another, and the shells accelerated by the railguns to 5 times the speed of sound broke through the glass of the building and flew towards Titan. The Gauss machine guns on Titan scanned the incoming threat, but it was too late to intercept it. The railgun shells hit the shielding field generator on the belly of Titan fiercely, and with a violent explosion, the fragments of the generator splashed out. The old Alliance soldiers on alert around Titan opened fire at the building where Monica was. The rain of bullets and shells shattered the glass of the building. Several orbital airborne soldiers who had no time to dodge were instantly beaten into mincemeat by the whistling bullets. Assholes, everyone suppressed them with grenades. Monica clenched her fists. At this time, the Titan driver, who was stunned by the railgun attack, also reacted. Seeing that the Imperial soldiers who attacked him were hiding in the solid building, he quickly turned the control stick. The huge Titan slowly turned around and aimed a row of 380mm Gauss cannons on its body at the building where Monica and others were. Damn it! Retreat! All teams quickly evacuate this building, Monica shouted nervously, and then adjusted the power armor to speed mode and began to run wildly. The table blocking the road jumped up directly, rolled on the ground, and continued to run, smashing the glass wall blocking the road. In this way, Monica and others ran all the way and were about to reach the other side of the building. The Gauss cannon on the Titan roared. Chapter 30 Alien Puppet Army. The Titan's cannon roared, and 10 huge projectiles were ejected. With a shrieking sound, it smashed into the building where Monica was like a meteor. The violent explosion smashed the lower half of the entire building to pieces. The entire building slowly fell to the side. Monica and others in the building were horrified. Even if they were wearing power armor, they would be dead if they were buried by a building hundreds of stories high. Monica and others broke through the windows of the building and fell downwards. However, their speed was not faster than the speed of the building's collapse. Amid the huge roar, everyone was buried under the rubble. Just when the Titan wanted to make up another shot, thousands of missiles fell from the sky, and the huge explosion completely enveloped it. When the smoke caused by the explosion dissipated, only a huge pit was left at the original place. Squeak. Warhawk 0001 calling the base. No signs of survival of Monica's team have been found, and the tracker signal on the armor has disappeared. A black aerospace fighter circled in the air for a while and then disappeared into the clouds. There was a sound of rolling gravel. An arm stretched out from the ruins, and the armor on the arm was so damaged that it was unbearable to look at. Then another arm stretched out from the rubble, and Monica swept away the gravel buried on her body and turned over. The armor on her body was completely damaged, and she had to take off her armor to reveal the tights inside. Is there anyone alive? Monica shouted anxiously around, but it was quiet all around, and no one answered her. She walked on the ruins with dull eyes and staggering steps, occasionally pushing away a few pieces of gravel. Where did you go? Don't leave me alone. Monica's words were full of hesitation and sadness, and tears could not stop flowing out. She brought 59 people with her on this mission, but she was the only one who survived. How could she face her fellow tribesmen? How could she meet those compatriots who asked her to bring back their children and husbands in good condition? Monica sat on the ruins helplessly, looking at the sky resignedly, just sitting there quietly. After an unknown amount of time, she was awakened by a pair of tentacles swinging back and forth in front of her, pulling her back from her confusion. She habitually drew out the knife at her waist, ready to get rid of the Alliance people in front of her. Because only the Alliance people have tentacles, and this is the occupied area of the Empire, there is no army of the Independent Alliance. Our own people. Our own people. Don't get excited, we are the Empire's Puppet Army Brigade. Obviously, the Parker who said this did not know what the Puppet Army meant. Puppet Army Brigade? Monica was confused, she had never heard of such a military branch. Yes, we are all Parkers who are inclined to the Empire. We bathe in the light of the great Emperor and manage these dirty Parker bugs for him. After saying this, the puppet soldier whipped the old Alliance soldier standing in a row next to him with a whip. Before Monica's brain could turn around, she was taken back to the fleet by the transport ship that came. That's right, the puppet army that Monica met was the alien traitor army led by Chopper, who was successfully influenced by Mingze. Ever since the Empire's army entered the Alliance's galaxy and beat the Alliance's fleet into panic, there has been a large group of frustrated Parkers who like to be the guides, and they have grown rapidly under the leadership of the first alien traitor Chopper. It has to be said that in any civilization and race, the existence of traitors is the most cruel to their own people, and they are as obedient as a puppy to their masters. Because the population of the empire is scarce, elite soldiers cannot be wasted on maintaining law and order in the occupied areas, so these puppet soldiers have taken on the work of maintaining law and order in these occupied areas. They are also responsible for combating the enemy's underground organizations to prevent them from destroying the occupied areas. Since the Empire's fleet arrived on this planet a day ago, countless Parker traders have come to serve as guides, willing to serve the Empire with all their heart and soul. While maintaining law and order, these puppet soldiers like to bully these original tribesmen the most. Beating and scolding are considered light, and killing is nothing when it is serious. Whenever this happens, a small group of righteous Imperial soldiers will appear to stop these puppet soldiers. Then they will slowly leave under the grateful eyes of the residents in the occupied area and the respect of the puppet soldiers. This has led to the people in the occupied area to gather hatred on the puppet soldiers, while the Empire, the initiator of all this, is grateful, which has greatly reduced the resistance activities in the occupied areas. Malsa City, the last city occupied by the old Alliance army. Except for this city, the entire planet has been recovered by the Empire, but because of the unique structure of this city, it has not been taken down for a long time. This city is not a city in the ordinary sense. The entire city is a huge building. The outer wall of the building is wrapped in a special cement tens of meters thick, and the outermost layer is covered with a thick layer of armor. The reason why the city is so unique is that it is the location of the highest military command on this planet. There are also a large number of scientific research centers inside it. These scientific research centers are also the reason why the Empire dares not use weapons of mass destruction. Therefore, the Empire can only use human wave tactics to capture this city. Now the defensive weapons of this city have been destroyed by the Empire, and all the defense forces rely on the rifles in the hands of the soldiers. This has reached the standard for a hard attack. The periphery of this city is surrounded by countless puppet troops inside and outside. In front of these puppet troops are armed Parker civilians. These civilians were captured because they resisted the Empire or disrespected the Empire. They can only survive by capturing the fortress city in the distance. If you want to retreat, the rifles in the hands of the puppet army are not for display. They will tear all disobedient people into pieces. Rows of death squads were issued a simple gunpowder rifle. These rifles were taken out by the puppet army from the arsenal hundreds of years ago. Although it is not known whether they will explode when fired, it is enough for the death squads. The death squads were expressionless and seemed numb. Holding the rifle weakly in his hand, his thin body shivered in the cold wind. Get ready. Listen to my orders. Charge. Those who survive can be free. A puppet soldier shouted through the radio. The eyes of the originally numb suicide soldiers suddenly lit up when they heard the word freedom. It was as if they had regained their spirits. As the order was issued, these suicide soldiers rushed towards the distant city under the cover of the puppet army's artillery fire. In the trenches of the distant city, sir, those are the people we have to protect. Should we open fire, the officer on the side was entangled. If he didn't shoot, these people would break through the defense line. If he shot, he would definitely be tried by the Allied Army Court after the war. Chapter 31 Cannon Fodder Death Squad. Seeing that the death squad was about to rush to the front, the commander shouted, "Fire!" The soldiers lying in the bunkers pulled the trigger one after another, and bullets rubbed at high speed in the air to produce milky white tails. Several death soldiers running in the front were shot to the ground in an instant. The old-fashioned protective clothing they were wearing did not provide any protection and was penetrated by bullets. The death soldiers behind them quickly lay down on the ground, and the rifles in their hands pulled the trigger in the general direction without aiming. The inaccurate bullets hit the bunkers around the old Alliance soldiers, and only a few unlucky guys were hit in the head by the stray bullets. At this time, the artillery of the Imperial puppet army took the opportunity of the Alliance soldiers leaving the anti-artillery hole to dump the shells on the Alliance's position. The Alliance soldiers wearing power armor were thrown high by the explosion, and the soldiers who survived by chance quickly retreated to the anti-artillery hole in the bunker. Charge! The voice of the Imperial puppet army supervisor rang in the ears of the death soldiers. The soldiers got up from the ground one after another and ran towards the Alliance defense line with a roar. At this time, the Alliance soldiers on the defense line did not dare to stand out to block the bombardment of artillery fire. That's right, this is Mingze's reference to the tactics of the Soviet army on Earth during World War II, using artillery fire to suppress the infantry to charge. Although this will kill many soldiers by his own people, It is the most efficient way to attack. Anyway, these death-defying soldiers are not his soldiers, so he doesn't feel bad about losing them. The death-defying soldiers who have been beaten red-eyed have forgotten the fact that they are slaves. Their 4 compound eyes are red, and the rifles in their hands have not stopped. When a magazine is emptied, they will replace it with a new one. Seeing that they are about to break through to the Alliance's front, the death-defying soldiers who have emptied all the bullets on their bodies threw away their rifles, drew out the daggers at their waists, and roared into the Alliance's bunkers. Bang, bang, crisp gunshots came from the bunker from time to time, and the death-defying soldiers who rushed into the bunker were quickly shot dead by the Alliance soldiers, but the number of death-defying soldiers was too large. Like a tide. No matter how you kill, you can't kill them all. Some soldiers even saw their neighbors and friends rushing towards them with rifles or sabers, and their will soon collapsed. Countless soldiers raised their tentacles to surrender. As more and more people surrendered, the entire defense line fell into the control of the Empire. These soldiers did not know that in order to capture this fortress city beautifully, the puppet army leader arrested nearly 2 million Parkers from all over the planet and filled them into the death squad. It would take a lot of time to catch 2 million chickens, not to mention 2 million armed death squads. A huge fortress city was surrounded and captured by 2 million cannon fodder death squads. Countless death squads had forgotten their original intentions, and they poured into the city holding old-fashioned rifles. Calling the general headquarters, "This is the Street Fighting Defense Command. Our first line of defense has been breached, and the enemy has poured into the city. We will try our best to use street fighting to delay the enemy's attack. Please send troops to support us as soon as possible." An officer just hung up the communicator and saw a tide of enemies pouring in from the street. The black mass of death-defying soldiers were like a group of crazy ants. They rushed into every building and submerged it with human wave tactics, and the people behind them rushed to the next building. Any defensive tactics were defeated by this human wave tactic, and countless strongholds were submerged by the death-defying soldiers. The death-defying soldiers, who were red-eyed, could not distinguish between enemies and civilians. They rushed into every house in the city and killed everyone they saw. The whole city was crying in the massacre. The huge giant building was full of explosions, gunshots, cries, begging for life, and roars. This group of enslaved death-defying soldiers seemed to have lost their humanity. They imposed all the pain they endured on their compatriots. Their eyes were full of indifference to life. Even if the whole family knelt in front of them, these inhumane devils could kill them without blinking an eye. After the war, Mingze was also shocked by the cruelty of these death-defying soldiers and marked the words used with caution on the file. The center of this fortress city is the headquarters of the federal military. General, let's surrender. We can't let innocent people die anymore. Those people are simply devils. They don't even let children go. The officer shed tears as he spoke. With a bang, the officer's forehead spurted dark green blood and he fell to the ground and died. His eyes were full of disbelief before he died. Those who disturb the morale of the army die. After saying that, the general put the gun back into his waist. "I need to be quiet, don't disturb me." The general walked into his office. After making sure the door was locked, he sat on the office chair and pressed the button under the desk. The entire desk and office chair began to sink slowly and soon came to the underground of the city. The general pushed open the closed door and asked the staff inside, "How is the spaceship prepared?" Reporting to the commander, "The spaceship is ready and can take off at any time," several staff members replied respectfully. "Oh, very good, your mission has been completed." After saying that, he took out his pistol and shot several unsuspecting staff members one by one. Only the dead can keep secrets. "You can rest in peace." He threw the pistol on the ground, wiped his hands with a handkerchief and threw it next to the corpse. He opened the door of the spaceship, turned around and loaded all the property he had embezzled, such as a card of energy crystals, rare gems, bearer stocks, etc., into the spaceship. After sorting them out, he walked into the cockpit, threw himself on the driver's seat and turned around twice, grinning. "The spaceship will take off in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1." The voice of AI came from the sound of the spaceship. As the countdown ended, the spaceship was slowly lifted by a huge mechanical arm and faced a launch channel directly above the secret base. The tail of the spaceship slowly ejected a blue tail flame, and the gate on the ceiling faded to both sides. In the huge square in the center of the city, ripples appeared on the originally calm artificial lake. The water level of the artificial lake dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye, revealing a huge circular hole in the middle. The outer shell of the city above the artificial lake also gradually opened a hole. Suddenly, a silver-white spaceship shot up from the hole and disappeared in the air in just a few seconds. It seemed to be a high-level escape spaceship similar to the one the Alliance members took when they escaped. However, this spaceship was not so lucky. Although it had a stealth coating, it was still discovered by the optical observer of the destroyer in orbit. A red beam of light streaked across the sky and hit the accelerating spaceship. Chapter 32 Slave Code. The moment the escape ship was hit by the beam, it jumped into hyperspace urgently and disappeared. At this time, in the fortress city, many Alliance officers who planned to fight to the death were dumbfounded. After calling in vain, they broke open the door of the general's office and found that their boss was gone. It was almost certain that he had left them and escaped on the ship just now. "Let's surrender," an officer suggested weakly. Agree. Many officers nodded. In this way, the planetary landing battle that lasted for 15 days ended with the surrender of all Alliance troops. The warships deployed in this landing battle: 2 destroyers, 12 light cruisers, 32 transport ships, and 12 landing ships. 1 transport ship and 2 landing ships were damaged, 500 orbital airborne troops were dispatched, and 61 people died. A total of 1 million puppet troops were recruited, and the sacrifice was not counted. Puppet troops were not counted. 2.5 million cannon fodder death troops. The number of deaths is unknown. In short, the Empire's first landing battle was very successful. The flexible use of a large number of alien traders was an important reason why the Empire lost very few soldiers in this battle. The Imperial Military Department submitted a proposal to expand the Slave Death Army and Puppet Army to Emperor Li Mingze. Li Mingze agreed to the proposal after taking a look. After taking over the planet, Li Mingze decided to capture all the original Alliance citizens as slaves, but because they were temporarily on the same front with the independent Alliance army, Li Mingze did not dare to go too far and only promulgated 10 slave codes. 1. All slaves lose the qualification of free immigration and can only live in the city where they are now. 2. All slaves have no right to assemble, and all large-scale activities must be notified and approved before they can be carried out. 3. All slaves have no right to elect the leaders of the Empire and no right to discuss the politics of the Empire. Labor camps for violators. 4. All slaves are issued corresponding food and necessities according to their labor, and no longer receive currency. The more they work, the more they get. 5. All slaves must learn the language of country, Chinese, and all the original school textbooks are destroyed. They can only learn the textbooks provided by country. 6. All slaves must bow 45 degrees when seeing the citizens and soldiers of the Empire. 7. All slaves' marriage and childbirth must be approved by the Empire. All slaves are not allowed to intermarry with the citizens of the Empire. If found intermarrying, the slaves will be executed and the citizens of the Empire will be demoted to slaves, to ensure the purity of human bloodline. 8. All slaves must shout "Long live His Majesty, long live the Empire" before meals every day. Those who violate the rules will be sent to labor camps, similar to concentration camps. All slaves can supervise and report each other, and the reporters will receive a certain amount of monetary rewards. 9. All slaves can only browse the optical network and have no right to speak on the optical network. 10. Slaves who have made special contributions to the Empire, such as scientists, senior talents in some fields, those who have won military merits in wars, etc., can be transferred to ordinary citizens of the Empire. Li Mingze believes that after a long period of brainwashing, these slaves will definitely integrate into the Empire and devote everything they have to the construction of the Empire. The original puppet army has also been standardized and managed. A large number of lackeys who surrendered to the Empire earlier, although still slaves, have removed the constraints of Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the Code. And the Empire gave them the qualification to manage slaves, at the cost of injecting the Empire's restrained nanorbits into their bodies. If they dared to have the idea of betraying the Empire, these robots would decompose the person. As for the original Death Army, Li Mingze, as an emperor, naturally kept his word. All those who were willing to go back were sent back to reunite with their families. Those who were unwilling to go back could get much richer food and living supplies than ordinary slaves, and they could also enjoy a monthly vacation during non-war periods. The price of such favorable conditions is to be ready to sacrifice their lives for the Empire at any time, but if they can survive 13 rounds of war, They can become lower-class Imperial citizens. This is the reward given by the Empire to the Death Army, so they are also a privileged class among slaves. These conditions have made many Death Army soldiers express their willingness to stay in the Death Army. In order to reduce casualties, the Empire also equipped them with simplified power armor and assault rifles. These power armors only have armor and key parts, and the materials used are also inferior materials. The load-bearing capacity, impact resistance, bulletproof ability, strength, speed, and CD of the entire armor are less than half of the original armor of the Empire. The assault rifles used by the Death Troops are improved versions of the old-fashioned caseless gunpowder rifles, but they have been modified according to the space environment, using gunpowder that can be ignited in an oxygen-free environment and a series of space accessories. The task of the fully armed Death Troops is to drop countless Death Troops into the airdrop warehouse before the orbital airborne army attacks. After countless Death Troops seize the landing site, the orbital airborne army will then carry out orbital airborne to assist the Death Troops in the attack. This can greatly reduce the losses of the orbital airborne army. In this explanation, the orbital airborne army is composed of races that actively vassalize the Empire, and after a lot of training, they use the Empire's standard equipment. The Death Troops are composed of races that have been enslaved. They are thrown into the battlefield after only a small amount of military training, using very cheap weapons and equipment, and their mission is to block the cannon fodder and reduce the loss of cannon fodder. The Empire's first pseudo-army leader, the alien traitor Chopper, has been very comfortable recently. Not to mention that he has power that he dared not even think about before becoming a traitor. The mansions he lives in now are all mansions that he could only look up to before. Sometimes he would wake up laughing in his sleep. He was right to be the guide. He now lived in a super mansion of tens of thousands of square meters. When he went out, he was guarded by countless puppet soldiers. At home, he had a beautiful girl named Parker who gave him a massage with her slippery tentacles. His life was so comfortable. Today, Chopper was flirting with a beautiful maid he had just found in his hall. The two pairs of watery compound eyes made him feel numb all over. Suddenly, he saw that all the guards outside were kneeling on the ground. What was this? The ancestor of the Empire was here? Chopper pushed the maid who was flirting away, knelt on the ground, and pushed the maid who looked confused to the ground. "Welcome to the Great Master," Chopper said as he climbed up and licked Li Mingze's boots. Li Mingze kicked him away. "Are you disgusting? Don't touch my boots with your disgusting saliva. If you do it again, I will cut off your tongue. My new boots are wasted. These are bought for me by Zion." Li Mingze put his hands behind his back in the hall, touched and looked around, and said, "You are living a comfortable life. You are living better than me." Chopper was so scared that he almost peed. He quickly crawled to Li Mingze's feet and hugged Li Mingze's legs. He said pitifully, "My lord, it's unfair. I have ordered people to leave the best manners on this planet to you. This is the one I live in at the back. And you see, I didn't leave any good things, just a few chairs." As he spoke, Chopper squeezed his eyes and tried to squeeze out a few tears to get forgiveness. Okay, I came to you for something else this time." Li Mingze kicked Chopper aside and said, "Author, please vote. Chapter 33 The Lost Fleet. Don't be idle. Get ready to lead 200,000 puppet soldiers to the next planet for recruitment. Also, order people to collect all the energy crystals and mineral crystals on this planet and send them back to the Empire by transport ship." Li Mingze squatted down and patted Chopper on the shoulder and said, Yes, my lord." Chopper agreed with a low eyebrow. Teams of puppet soldiers in green uniforms lined up to board the transport ships. After the transport ships were full, they took off one after another and flew to the next occupied star of the Empire. H632W Galaxy. This is an uninhabited and desolate galaxy with no rare minerals and no planets to colonize. The original silence was broken by a flash of light, and a huge fleet appeared in the starry sky. "Sir, our fleet has left hyperspace. It has been 18 days since the emergency jump," the adjutant reported respectfully to the fleet commander. The commander nodded. "Order the fleet to fly to the Alliance as soon as possible." No one knew that this fleet was no longer the same fleet as before, and no one knew what they encountered in hyperspace. They could only detect something wrong from the change from the original snow-white ship paint to a blood-like color. All the crew members in the fleet stared at their work areas numbly. There was no emotion in the four compound eyes, only scarlet red. It took only a few dozen seconds for the fleet to cross the hyperspace channel that would have taken several days to pass. Ethan Galaxy in a destroyer on Ethan's orbit. Li Mingze was sitting in a room decorated like an office and talking to Chu Xiaoyan on video. The two were chatting enthusiastically when a female soldier rushed in a hurry. "Manager, there is an important meeting for you to attend." After saying that, the female soldier anxiously winked at Li Mingze. "Well, I'm going to a meeting. Let's talk later," Li Mingze explained awkwardly to Chu Xiaoyan on the other side of the screen. "Go ahead, when you come back, we'll talk about that female employee," Chu Xiaoyan said with some jealousy and hung up the video. Li Mingze was upset, shook his head helplessly and followed the female soldier to the bridge. "Sir, we received an urgent video. You should see it. The situation is very serious." The female soldier opened the video for Li Mingze. The upper part of the video was an empty space, and the lower part was a developed planet. A sudden red fleet appeared above the planet. Li Mingze pressed the pause button, frowning and thinking. You must know that the hyperspace technology of the Empire, the Old Alliance, or the Independent Alliance Army, is still at the level of relying on the hyperspace orbit between planets to jump. It is even more unthinkable to be able to appear directly in the gravitational range of the planet, because the huge gravity of the planet will disrupt the hyperspace channel, and you may jump out to the core of the planet. And the fleet in the picture, not only the flash duration of leaving the hyperspace is n times shorter, but this fleet can also appear directly within the gravitational range of the planet. Could it be a fleet from another civilization? Li Mingze couldn't figure it out and had to continue playing. The fleet in the video gradually approached, revealing the logo on the ship. It was the joint fleet of the Old Alliance member countries. A white fleet composed of light cruisers appeared below the camera, and judging by the logo, it was also a fleet of the Old Alliance member countries. Are they going to meet? Li Mingze had a question in his mind. The fleet that appeared from the bottom of the camera made an amazing move. Instead of meeting, they fired at the red fleet that had jumped. Dozens of red beams of light swept towards the fleet that had jumped. But what surprised Li Mingze was that the red fleet did not fight back, but dozens of destroyers resisted the attack and quickly flew towards the white garrison warships. Your Majesty. The key point is coming. Look carefully, the female soldier next to him reminded in a low voice. In the video, the red fleet just collided with a planet's garrison fleet, but the colliding warships did not explode. The next scene made Li Mingze's eyes widen. The red warship among the colliding warships began to dissolve. The dissolved red solution wrapped the white garrison warship. Soon, only a huge red sphere remained where the two warships collided. After agitating twice, the red sphere turned into a red warship again, but its size was twice as large as before. Li Mingze was so surprised by what happened in the video that he couldn't speak. These warships actually had life. The video only stopped here, and the last shot was that the screen was covered by red liquid. Li Mingze seemed to be able to find twisted faces from these red liquids. How is the planet now? Is there any news? Li Mingze asked anxiously. You know, according to this swallowing efficiency, if this kind of warship with life swallowed up the construction machinery on the planet, it would become a huge fleet. What's the point of competing for the galaxy? Prepare the escape ship early and run all the way. Your Majesty, we have contacted the Old Alliance about this matter. The other party replied that the fleet disappeared after destroying the garrison fleet and the transport ships in the spaceport. The female soldier replied. This is weird. Why does this fleet only attack warships and transport ships? Li Mingze lowered his head and thought. Just then, a huge fleet painted red suddenly appeared above Ethan. Alert! 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 All personnel enter combat positions. Enemy spotted. A series of shrill alarms sounded in the Imperial battleship that stayed in Ethan's orbit. Li Mingze reacted quickly and stuffed a female soldier into the escape boat in the command cabin, set Ethan as the destination and launched it. It's not that he likes this female soldier, but Chu Xiaoyan just wanted to talk to him about this female employee. If she died in the battle, should he tell Chu Xiaoyan that the female employee died suddenly after the meeting? Who would believe it? For the sake of his reputation, he had to save her. Anyway, he was a substitute, and it didn't matter if he died. Fire all the weapons of the battleship, and prepare for emergency jump if the situation is not right, Li Mingze ordered with his hand on the seat handle. He wanted to see what this battleship was. Sir, the hyperspace channel is blocked, we can't make an emergency jump, the jumper reported to Li Mingze anxiously. Set the automatic attack. All personnel enter the escape pod. I will drive the battleship. This is an order, Li Mingze ordered firmly. Everyone also knew that His Majesty had a descending substitute, so nothing would happen. In addition, this was an iron order, so everyone could only follow the order and enter the escape pod to retreat. A few minutes later, more than a dozen escape ships and escape pods flew out of the battleship. And the Red Fleet in the distance was getting closer and closer. Chapter 34 The Truth About the Lost Fleet. Li Mingze sat in his command seat and slowly pushed the joystick. The destroyer slowly accelerated and headed for the Red Fleet. The beam cannon on the battleship kept spraying at the enemy ships in front. Several red beams of light fiercely cut into the surface of the enemy ship, cutting huge grooves on the armor. The enemy's hard armor made Li Mingze frown slightly. The beam cannon that had been invincible in previous battles was actually held back and did not even penetrate the enemy's armor. Soon he was surprised to find out again. The huge grooves originally cut by the laser began to slowly close at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the surface of the unknown battleship soon returned to a smooth state. Unwilling to give up, Li Mingze aimed and fired all the missiles carried by the battleship. But the enemy battleship did not make any interception or evasion moves, and just rushed towards the missile group. After a violent explosion, the red battleship sailed out of the flames intact, but the hull was obviously a little thinner. Oh? Isn't self-recovery infinite? It turns out that it is itself that is being damaged. A gleam of light flashed in Li Mingze's eyes. Seeing the two sides getting closer and closer, the destroyer that lost a missile could only helplessly shoot out beams to hit the other side as much as possible. There are 10 seconds left before the collision. All personnel please evacuate the warship. 9, 8, 4, 3, 2, 1. The alarm of the shipborne AI came from the bridge. Li Mingze sat in the command chair with a calm face, waiting for death to come. As the huge vibration came, he knew that the opponent's warship had made contact with his warship. Then the next step is to be swallowed by the opponent. Curious, Li Mingze thought so. As expected, the hanging window of the warship was gradually covered by a layer of red material, spreading towards the stern. Drip, drip, the damage rate of the warship armor is 25%. The damage rate is 90%. The external armor is completely damaged. The alarm began to sound after the warship was covered with red material. The whole warship made a terrifying twisting sound, as if it was tightly held by something. Soon Li Mingze found that the ceiling and walls of the bridge began to soften. Drops of red liquid seeped in. Li Mingze swore. He had never thought that this process would be so disgusting and terrifying. The feeling of being swallowed up bit by bit was too terrifying. Soon the liquid rose to the height of Li Mingze's knees. Li Mingze began to feel that his body was being swallowed up by something again. When he wanted to shoot himself, the red liquid instantly covered his whole body along his legs. Li Mingze felt very comfortable and relaxed, just like being in his mother's womb, safe and warm. He slowly let go of his nervous and vigilant heart and slowly lost consciousness. Well, are you back? Unexpectedly, it's quite comfortable to die. Li Mingze sat up and stretched. But soon he realized that something was wrong. He was now in an endless purple space. The light coming from nowhere made the whole space extremely bright. He got up and touched the ground under him. It seemed to be made of a kind of crystal. If you feel carefully, you can feel that the ground seems to be constantly creeping, and there is no wall around, just purple that stretches as far as the eye can see. This? Am I not dead? He scratched his head, but he quickly overturned this idea. Because his right hand did not feel anything when scratching his head. It penetrated his body just like that. Oh my god. No way, did I not return to the Advent warehouse after I died? I shouldn't have committed suicide. I should have been vigilant when facing the mysterious unknown. What should I do now? Li Mingze thought with regret. If there was a regret medicine in front of him now, he would definitely eat a big bottle. Unable to tell the direction, Li Mingze could only walk forward aimlessly, shouting, "Is there anyone? Is there anyone alive?" He could not feel the cold, fatigue, hunger and time, as if he had become an insensitive god. Just when Li Mingze was about to despair, the ground around him began to shake violently, and a scarlet liquid floated up from it. The scarlet unknown liquid slowly formed the image of a person in the air. This person seemed to have countless faces shouting on his body, as if they were imprisoned in his body. Atmo and Amp, the humanoid object made a strange sound. As if it was testing its voice, it spoke Chinese that Li Mingze was familiar with in a few seconds. "Why didn't you merge with us?" The humanoid slowly said something that made Li Mingze sweat. What do you mean by merge? What are you? Li Mingze shouted as if to give himself courage. We are from the Milky Way. We are a collection of unyielding consciousnesses that died in hyperspace. We come from all over the universe. We are unyielding souls. The humanoid object seemed to have begun to adapt to this new language. Died in hyperspace, Li Mingze asked doubtfully. Yes, we are unwilling souls, and the power of hyperspace has reshaped us. All civilizations should not try to control the power of hyperspace. If there were no hyperspace engines, we would not die. The purpose of our leaving hyperspace is to destroy all hyperspace engines, the humanoid object stated slowly. Li Mingze was in a state of confusion. It turned out that the souls of the crew members who died in the emergency jump were gathered together by some mysterious force. Since you didn't actively merge with us, we can only devour you. After that, the humanoid object slowly turned into a huge net and enveloped Li Mingze. At this critical moment, Li Mingze suddenly disappeared from the hyperspace. Damn it! Where did he go? You can't run away, the red liquid roared into hyperspace. Blue brick top floor, huh? I was scared to death. I will never use the Advent substitute to kill myself again, Li Mingze cursed and climbed up from the Advent chamber. Your Majesty, you should thank me. If I hadn't noticed the abnormality of the Advent data and forcibly pulled back your consciousness, you would be in danger. Tianyi stood in front of the Advent chamber with his eyes wide open and said with a smile. His expression was just like a puppy wagging its tail to its owner for a touch. There was no trace of the aloofness of Li Mingze when he first arrived. Yes, thank you for your hard work. You did a good job, Li Mingze praised with a twitch on his lips. Tianyi was so happy to be praised that he turned around and disappeared. Li Mingze found that this Tianyi was becoming more and more humanoid, unlike when he first came down and could clearly feel that it was artificial intelligence. Shaking his head to dispel these thoughts, Li Mingze walked towards the command center. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Bait. Li Mingze walked into the command center, and all the officers and soldiers stood up and saluted instantly. Li Mingze nodded, walked to his seat and sat down. Pass the order, all fleets and transport ships immediately leave the old Alliance star field, withdraw to the Edge star orbit together. The occupied planets will be managed by the puppet army. Do you hear me? Immediately, Li Mingze ordered the officers after he sat firmly. On Billy Star, a small group of death-defying soldiers just occupied a traffic artery in the city and began to set up a temporary camp. From time to time, orbital assault cabins dragged long tails to land on the battlefield. In the sky, a series of Empire's aerospace fighters chased the Alliance's fighters across the sky. The whole city was surrounded by thick smoke, and there were explosions and the roar of buildings being collapsed by crashed fighters. Sir, the command center said that the Empire's fleet was attacked by unknown forces and has withdrawn to the Edge star. We will not have support in the future, a communications officer reported to the commander. Damn it. Without the attack from orbit, the enemies who were hiding in the bunkers will come out again. I don't know if our troops can hold on. Send a message to all the commandos to shrink the defense range and defend with a regiment-level command as the center, the commander said calmly. As the Imperial commander in charge of controlling the death-defying soldiers, he did not regard those death-defying soldiers as human beings at all. As long as the Imperial soldiers in the regiment-level command were not sacrificed, it would be fine. Sure enough, not long after receiving the news, the beams that had originally fallen from the sky like dense rain gradually disappeared. The orbital assault cabins that were constantly landing also stopped appearing after the last batch landed. Just 2 days after the fleet of Billy Star left, a red-painted fleet appeared in the orbit of Billy Star. No hyperspace engine was sensed. Go to the next galaxy. After an ambiguous voice came from the flagship, the entire fleet jumped into hyperspace and disappeared. Your Majesty, should the news of the mutant ship be notified to the Independence Alliance? Notify? Why not notify? But not now, Li Mingze said slowly with a wicked smile on his lips. At this time, the Independent Alliance had no idea about the mutant ships. As expected, the mutant fleet arrived at the Cape of Good Hope Galaxy, where the Independent Alliance was stationed. Sir, an unknown fleet was discovered, an officer in the Independent Alliance flagship reported to PAL. Hello, Independent Alliance. This is the Imperial headquarters. According to our intelligence, a mutant fleet has appeared in the Alliance, and the overall paint of the fleet is red. It has the logo of the combined fleet of the Alliance member countries. The attack method of this fleet is devouring. If you encounter this fleet, please be careful. Don't try to approach it. Li Mingze's mean voice came from the encrypted channel between the Independent Alliance and the Empire, and then Li Mingze also sent the relevant information of the mutant fleet. That's right, Li Mingze warned the Independent Alliance after knowing that it had encountered the mutant fleet, and he wanted to trick them hard based on the principle of tricking as many ships as possible. Damn it. It's this fleet. All warships and space stations open fire immediately, Pal ordered loudly in exasperation. Using a detector not far from the battlefield, Li Mingze saw that the fleet and space station of the Independent Alliance fired a huge amount of beams at the mutant fleet in orbit. The huge beams quickly tore apart dozens of mutant cruisers. But what happened next made the soldiers of the Independent Alliance dare not believe their eyes. The warships that were originally torn into countless pieces were actually slowly gathering. Piece after piece of fragments merged together and transformed into a smaller light cruiser. Damn it. Damn it. The firepower is not strong enough. All weapons don't wait for cooling. Fire at full speed. Pal anxiously ordered the fleet to enter the rapid fire mode regardless of the life of the weapons. The cost of this mode is that all ship-borne weapons need to be overhauled before they can be used after this battle. But even if the firing rate of the weapons of the Independent Alliance increased by nearly 50%, the loss of the mutant fleet was not too great. It's just that there are constantly torn warships that cannot be restored because there is too little red matter left, so only a few can be merged together. Tens of minutes later, the mutant fleet has approached the fleet of the Independent Alliance. At this time, a message from the Empire came through the communication channel. Quick, blow up your hyperspace engines. Then force land on the planet Haumwangkok. Pal, who was desperate, immediately sent the news of blowing up the hyperspace engines and making forced landings to all the ships. Soon, small-scale explosions broke out at the tails of the warships of the Independent Alliance fleet. Then the warships began to accelerate and fly towards the surface of the planet. Because the warships were huge and had no anti-gravity engines installed, they had to rely on a large number of tugboats to take off again after landing on the planet. Pal and others naturally didn't know that Li Mingze was using them as guinea pigs for experiments. Even if they knew, they had to take a risk. After all, the hyperspace channel had been blocked. If they couldn't escape, they would die, and they couldn't even surrender. But to their surprise, the fleet really stopped chasing them, but stayed where they were. After staying for a while, the mutant fleet circled again, as if wondering why the hyperspace engine they sensed was gone. The mutant fleet with low IQ jumped into the hyperspace helplessly and headed for the next galaxy. On the orbit of the Empire's edge star, because Li Mingze didn't know the principle of the mutant fleet's perception of the hyperspace engine, he could only temporarily disassemble the hyperspace engines of all warships into parts and install them separately. On the orbit, there were several plastic ship models equipped with hyperspace engines that could run. Each model was equipped with a large number of fusion nuclear weapons, which would be detonated from the inside when being swallowed. Not far from the bait ship, there were missile launchers suspended in space. Each launcher was equipped with hundreds of fusion missiles. These missiles were printed over time by suspending all industrial development in the colony. On both sides of the launcher were fleets that had dismantled the hyperspace engine. Li Mingze said that everything was ready now. And he was just waiting for the idiot mutant fleet to jump into the trap and use saturation attacks to consume the red matter to the point where it could no longer be reassembled. Time passed day by day, and just when Li Mingze was waiting for the grass to grow, the radar of the warship scanned the hyperspace fluctuations in the orbit of the edge star. A huge blood-red fleet suddenly appeared in the orbit of the edge star. After a moment of silence, the fleet accelerated towards the bait ship. Don't fire. Let them devour the bait before firing, Li Mingze ordered while sitting in the flagship command chair. Thank you Li Zinpeng for the reward. Thank you for your recommendation votes. Chapter 36, Destruction. The mutant fleet accelerated towards several decoy warships, and the distance between the two sides was constantly shortening. The mutant fleet slammed into the decoy warships, turning into red liquid to wrap them and swallow them bit by bit. At this moment, the fusion weapon installed inside the decoy warships received a detonation information. Boom and boom, several loud noises, followed by several huge white light balls in the center of the mutant fleet, and the mutant warships at the center of the explosion were instantly evaporated by the intense high temperature. The affected warships rolled and flew out, hitting other mutant warships. These decoys scrapped at least 1/5 of the opponent's warships. Kill him while he's sick. All missile launch platforms and warships open fire at full force, and break these guys into molecules and electrons. Li Mingze stood in front of the command seat and waved his fist. The missile launch platforms that received the order began to ignite and launch missiles one by one, and countless missiles rushed towards the mutant fleet with bright tail flames. The dense missiles in the space surrounded the mutant fleet tightly, and the only thing on the entire screen was the strong light from the tail of the missile. As the missiles bombarded, dazzling lights lit up everywhere in the mutant fleet. It seemed that there were more suns in the starry sky, illuminating the dark universe. On the edge star, it was night. Because of the blockage of information, the people on the planet knew nothing about the war in orbit. Suddenly, it seemed as if daytime had arrived, and the grass under the blue sky and white clouds was swaying gently in the wind. But it lasted less than a minute, and the sky that was originally as bright as daylight fell silent again, and the bright moonlight once again filled the earth. The edge star also has a moon. This amazing change made all the people in the night hemisphere stop their work and look up at the sky in confusion. It seemed that something incredible had happened in a place they could not see. The mutant fleet that had been attacked by a large number of missiles had only nearly 100 destroyers left to support it, and each destroyer was scarred. Just when Li Mingze thought he was going to win, the mutant fleet on the opposite side turned into red liquid and merged together to form a sphere of astonishing size. The huge sphere began to slowly change its shape, and in the blink of an eye, a super-large battleship appeared in front of everyone. The situation is not good. Li Mingze thought to himself. Open fire. Concentrate fire on it. Hundreds of warships sprayed red beams at this huge mutant battleship. To everyone's surprise, such a large number of attacks did not break the outer armor of this super battleship. Damn it. Its armor is too thick, it has undergone a qualitative change. Unless we attack it with more powerful weapons, we can't defeat it at all if we can't reach its damage limit, the commander of the Imperial fleet said solemnly. Everyone didn't know how to defeat it, and the atmosphere of the entire fleet was a little low for a while. At this time, Tianyi appeared in the bridge. Your Majesty, I think I found its weakness. Oh? Tell me, Li Mingze said hurriedly. After my scan, I found that this huge mutant warship consumed a lot of red matter in the composition of the armor in pursuit of strong armor, and ignored whether the thruster could flexibly push its huge body. I don't know if you have noticed that its current speed is only half of the original speed, Tianyi explained slowly. Li Mingze's eyes lit up. In other words, we use hundreds of high-power transport ships loaded with fusion weapons to push it into the star. If this super battleship uses the red matter on the armor to generate thrusters, then we can detonate nuclear weapons at close range. If it chooses to swallow, then detonate it inside its body. No matter what it chooses, it will die. Good idea. Everyone cast their admiring eyes on their wise and great emperor, with pride in their hearts. Fleet number 1, listen to the order, lead the mutant ship towards the star. The transport ships on standby urgently load fusion nuclear weapons, the commander of the Imperial fleet quickly ordered. The fleet used its speed to lead the mutant warships in a circle towards the star, and took the opportunity to load the fusion nuclear weapons on the hundreds of transport ships that were still docked at the Edge Star space station. Hundreds of transport ships locked their front mechanical arms on the mutant warships, and the rear thrusters were turned to maximum power regardless of the loss, and the jets emitted dazzling blue light. Because they had learned a lesson from the previous bait ship, the mutant warships were not in a hurry to devour them. The people in the command room of the space station were remotely controlling the transport ships. Target star HY-231A, full speed, power 110%. Set to automatic driving. The huge mutant warship was slowly pushed towards the star in the Edge galaxy by hundreds of transport ships. After it realized that it was being pushed, it unthinkingly converted the red material on the original armor into thrusters, trying to break away from the traction. Good opportunity. Fire, Li Mingze ordered loudly when he saw the right time. The Imperial fleet fired hundreds of red beams, fiercely bombarding the surface of the super battleship. A huge amount of lasers quickly penetrated the weakened armor. After the mutant warship felt the damage, it hurriedly transferred the red material on the thrusters to the armor, and it would no longer weaken the armor no matter what it said. The mutant warship's simple logical loop could not think of what it should do at this time. The battleship that swallowed and pushed it was afraid of being detonated inside, and it would be attacked if it converted its armor into thrusters, and it would be pushed away if it did not convert its thrusters. Its not-so-intelligent mind was caught in a contradiction. No, they are pushing me to the star. When the mutant battleship was troubled by the contradictory cycle, it was already pushed closer to the star. Finally realizing that something was wrong, it decided to jump into hyperspace to escape. You know, this is a problem it has never thought about. One day it was forced to jump into hyperspace to escape. This hatred was remembered by its simple brain, and one day it would come back for revenge. Unfortunately, the huge amount of energy emitted by the star disrupted the hyperspace fluctuations, and no matter how the mutant battleship tried, it could not enter the hyperspace. No. We don't want to perish. Our mission is not yet completed. We are immortal life. No. The mutant battleship unwillingly issued a final wail. And the wail was transmitted to the entire galaxy through a special wave. Soon after, the mutant battleship was destroyed in the flames of the star. At this time, the Milky Way was close to the center. The wailing waves of the mutant fleet came, and the interior of a giant star seemed to be activated by something. The entire star slowly stopped burning, revealing a huge metal sphere inside. The interior of the huge metal sphere had intricate passages and buildings, and in the huge building in the center of the sphere, a metal plate lit up with white light, and a mysterious voice came from it. Threat signal detected. Start the 13th sequence civilization recovery program. This sleep took 38,100 years. Start the civilization self-inspection system. Civilization self-inspection passed. The civilization preservation integrity is 99.98712%, and 120,105 people cannot be revived. Automatic construction ships have started working, all storage platforms are working normally, and the material loss rate is 99.325%. Wake up all the population in 10 years and prepare for the 12th threat. Threat type, hyperspace invasion. The mysterious voice disappeared. If it weren't for the star fortresses that had already started to operate and countless automatic fleets, this empty galaxy seemed as if nothing had happened. Mingze, who knew nothing about this, was still celebrating the destruction of the mutant fleet. The destruction of the mutant fleet made everyone feel relieved. People's fanatical worship of Mingze reached a new height. Chapter 37: A Respectable Enemy. In the flagship command room, Your Majesty, take advantage of his weakness. The fleet of the Independence Alliance is now undergoing a major overhaul. We can take this opportunity to take them down. Liu Yi, the commander of the Imperial Fleet, respectfully suggested to Mingze. Liu Yi is a slightly fat middle-aged man with a smile on his pale face. If you think he is a kind-hearted man, you are wrong. He is famous for his ruthlessness towards his enemies. Well, it's a good idea, just what I want. Mingze was very satisfied with Liu Yi's performance. You will be in charge of this battle. Perform well and make arrangements as soon as possible. Yes, Your Majesty. The commander was so excited that his face flushed. He would die without regrets to receive the praise of His Majesty. Well, although it is very cool to lead the expedition in person, it is too tiring for the Emperor to do everything himself. It is time to select a group of outstanding combat commanders from the war, and let them lead the army to charge for the Empire, and I, the Emperor, can take charge of the overall situation. Mingze thought so and walked out of the command room slowly. After the Imperial fleet reinstalled its hyperspace engine, it leaped towards the direction of the new capital of the Independent Alliance. The new capital galaxy of the Independent Alliance Command, we have received a request for supplies from the Imperial fleet. A communications soldier reported to the command center on the space station of the new capital star of the Independent Alliance. The Imperial fleet, which was allowed to enter the port, arrived at the space station and fell silent. Well, why don't they enter the port? The docking personnel at the port asked in confusion. Damn it! Their weapons are charging. A dock worker nearby threw down the card in his hand and ran into the space station, shouting without looking back. The other workers immediately cast their surprised eyes on the muzzles of the Imperial fleet's guns, and sure enough, these muzzles began to emit a faint red light. And the originally lowered gun barrels slowly raised up and aimed at the port where the workers were. The command center of the space station also noticed something was wrong and asked in a questioning tone, "This is the Independence Alliance space station. Why are you charging your weapons? You are provoking a new war." Commander Liu Yi smiled and replied coldly, "There are nearly 1,000 beam cannons aiming at you now. I limit you to surrender within 10 seconds, otherwise we can only shoot you into sieves. 1098, don't fire. We surrender, the managers of the space station shouted hurriedly. Between life and death, they chose life. Because the warships of the Independence Alliance were being repaired, the space station did not have enough power to protect itself. At this time, risking resistance was tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. Tens of seconds later, the originally closed port gates opened one after another, and the beam cannons originally aimed at the Imperial fleet slowly raised their muzzles and turned inward. The landing ships following the fleet flew into the port. After docking, teams of Marines alternately covered and rushed into the port. It didn't take long for the entire space station to be taken down, and the Empire had already controlled the space orbit of the capital of the Independence Alliance. Liu Yu never expected that it would be so easy to take control of the space orbit. Liu Yu cast his eyes on the new capital star of the Independence Alliance. Strike the planet's air defense facilities with all your strength. Beams of red lasers from the Imperial fleet shot at the air defense facilities on the planet, and missiles flew out of the warships from time to time. Because the largest shipbuilding center and scientific research center of the Independence Alliance are gathered on this planet, Mingze prohibited the use of nuclear weapons in this war. Even if the losses are great, the planet must be taken intact. These industrial facilities are crucial to the expansion of the Empire. When the anti-aircraft firepower on the planet was almost destroyed by the Imperial fleet, hundreds of orbital airborne transport ships that were prepared threw assault landing chambers filled with soldiers to the surface of the planet. But unexpectedly, the Imperial Army did not encounter any resistance on the ground, and all the soldiers of the Independence Alliance threw down their weapons and sat together. On the equatorial central island of the new capital star, stands a huge manor. The entire manor consists of hundreds of milky white buildings. Lush vegetation covers the outer walls of the manor buildings. In the middle of the manor is a huge square, and next to the square stands a huge arc-shaped building. There was no sound in the originally noisy and prosperous manor, and the maids and guards running in the buildings disappeared. As night fell, the entire manor was quiet, and there was no light except for the building in the middle. And this silent manor welcomed its last guest. A huge spaceship with blue flames at the bottom fell from the sky, and the huge airflow from the engine blew the plants in the manor square to the east and west. Rows of lights lit up around the spaceship, illuminating the entire manor like daylight. As the spaceship's lift platform fell, a young man in black and gold power armor and a black cloak walked down the lift platform. The man walked into the huge white building alone without a guard behind him. Passing through the wide and narrow corridor, the man came to an office. There was only a chair facing the door and a huge star map hanging on the wall. The whole office seemed a little empty. "You're here," an old voice came from behind the chair, with a tone full of regret. "Yes, you knew I would come," the young man said slowly. "When I was young, I often looked up at the starry sky, hoping that one day I could soar in it, hoping that I could witness the growth of the Alliance, but I never thought that there would be such a day," the old voice answered irrelevantly. Without waiting for the young man to speak, the old voice continued, "Until today, I still hold a delusion that you will not come, but I didn't expect that you would come in the end." The chair with its back to the man slowly turned around, and the person inside was Pal, the supreme leader of the Independence Alliance. "I have ordered the army not to resist anymore. I don't want to see my homeland destroyed by war and my soldiers make unnecessary sacrifices. I hope you can let my soldiers go and treat them well. In return, I will leave the hundreds of warships being repaired in the dock to you intact." But, Pal raised the gun in his hand and pointed it at the young man. "Aren't you afraid?" Pal asked doubtfully. Seeing that the young man showed no signs of fear. "I believe you won't shoot. Even if you hand over the warship to me intact and ask me to let your soldiers go, you won't shoot," the young man said with a mysterious smile. You guessed wrong. I'm old and I don't have any family. This universe will eventually belong to the strong. You must remember, don't indulge in the illusion of peace like the Alliance and eventually go to destruction." After saying that, Pal pointed the gun in his hand at his head. The young man turned his back and walked out slowly. The mirrors on both sides of the corridor reflected Mingze's resolute profile. In a moment, a gunshot was heard behind him, and Pal's body slowly slid down from the chair. The beauty is old and the hero is at the end of his road. It is the most helpless sadness and the most regrettable. "Burn down this manor and build a monument here," Mingze ordered the soldiers waiting in the elevator. The elevator slowly rose. The huge spaceship disappeared in the air with its tail flames. Soon after, A missile fell from the sky like a meteor to the huge manor. A flash of light appeared, and the originally gorgeous manor disappeared. Transport ships landed on the island and welded a huge monument with huge metal ingots. On the monument, July 23, 2024, the leader of the Independence Alliance, PAL, rests here. The Independence Alliance surrendered across the board. From this moment on, the Empire truly began to move towards the starry sky. This monument witnessed the rise of the Empire. This monument witnessed the end of the hero. This monument witnessed the arrival of a brand new era. Chapter 38: A glimpse of Jupiter's orbit. On the inner edge of the spiral wing of the Milky Way, on the Orion spiral arm north of the galactic plane, there is a galaxy about 25,000 light-years from the center of the Milky Way. This is a magical galaxy, which consists of a yellow star and 8 planets orbiting it. The originally silent starry sky was broken by a burst of tearing light. In the orbit near Jupiter, a severely damaged silver-white spaceship fell out of hyperspace and was quickly captured by Jupiter's huge gravity, becoming a small satellite orbiting it. At this time on Earth, the United States, Hawaii Keck Observatory has updated the world's largest land-based optical telescope after being refurbished on December 25, 2024. The newly updated telescope is conducting its 236th observation. Mr. Mickler, you'd better come and see this, a technician at the observatory called astronomer Mickler. Mickler walked to the computer and lowered his head to look at the screen. There was a blurry photo on the screen, and in the center of the photo was a silver-white object that looked like a spaceship. This. Are you sure it's not electromagnetic interference or optical phantom? Mickler was a little bit unbelieving. Yes, sir, I confirm that I have urgently activated the telescope to rescan that area of airspace. The technician adjusted his glasses on the bridge of his nose and said seriously, "Oh my God. We must notify the Ministry of Defense." Mickler hurried to the encrypted phone beside him. 10 minutes later, 5 Osprey helicopters full of soldiers flew towards the observatory, and on the ground was a long line of armored vehicles. A soldier set up a checkpoint within a 10-kilometer radius around the observatory, prohibiting any civilian vehicles from approaching. 3 armed helicopters were circling in the sky. "Sir, I'm sorry, there is a military restricted area ahead, and a military exercise is underway. Please take a detour." A soldier knocked on the glass of the car in front of him with an automatic rifle in his hand, and the car had no choice but to turn around and leave. 3 hours later, the Minister of Defense and his secretary and others also arrived at the observatory in an Osprey. With a deafening roar of the helicopter, the Minister of Defense and others trotted out of the plane and ran into the observatory. "Mr. Minister, welcome." Mickler stretched out his hands to greet him. "Don't waste time, show me the photos taken by the telescope," the Minister of Defense ordered. Yes, follow me." Mickler led everyone to the host and enlarged the photos taken. "Look, after the computer data recovery processing, we have basically restored this unidentified object in Jupiter's orbit." Mickler opened another 3D model. This is a streamlined silver-white spaceship with an unknown logo printed on the side of the spaceship, and the middle part of the spaceship is seriously damaged, as if a huge hole was blasted out by something. If Mingze was there, he would definitely recognize that the logo on the side of the spaceship is the logo of the alliance that has been conquered by the Empire. "Sir, according to our analysis, this spaceship has stopped operating. There should be no threat," Mickler explained to everyone. "Well, if we Americans can get this spaceship, it will definitely enable our technology to rapidly improve, and it is not impossible for us to truly step into the starry sky," the minister nodded. "Block this news. And don't let Ziongo and Huaguo know. As long as we have control of this spaceship, we will be able to unify the world and let the whole world bathe in the glory of America," the minister continued to order. "Yes," everyone answered quickly. In a corner that no one noticed, a guard stuffed the secretly recorded information capsule into his nostrils and let it go down the trachea to the lungs. Not long after, the soldier underwent surgery for lung infection. The doctor who presided over the operation swallowed a tiny capsule taken from the soldier's lungs while everyone was not paying attention, and then completed the operation as if nothing had happened. A few days later, the soldier who underwent the operation died of a severe lung infection, and the attending doctor disappeared from America. Everyone once suspected that the unscrupulous doctor had killed the soldier and absconded for fear of crime. In fact, no, after the doctor passed the capsule to a waiter in a Ziongo hotel, he died of poisoning in the hotel bathroom, and his body was buried in the backyard of the hotel. Smoko, the new president Ivanka, was sitting at her desk browsing documents, and suddenly there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Ivanka said after putting down the file. "Mr. President, this is the important information we sent back at the cost of 3 excellent agents." A masked officer handed the file to Ivanka and left the office. Ivanka rubbed his sore eyes and opened the file. The more he looked at it, the more surprised he was, and soon his face sank. The information on this file was too shocking, and the complexity exceeded the limit that the bare country could bear. "Come here, arrange a special plane for me to Kyoto. I want to visit my neighbors in the south." Ivanka closed the file and instructed on the phone. After several years of governance in Kyoto, the haze has disappeared, and the green woodlands everywhere have made this historic political center full of vitality. Thanks to China's rural land purchase plan 5 years ago, a large amount of cash flowed into the hands of farmers, achieving rapid poverty alleviation. Farmers with funds have made a lot of consumption and revitalized the domestic real economy. With the rapid development of the real economy, China's GDP has also surpassed the United States and become the world's largest economy. The Belt and Road Initiative has allowed a large amount of new capital to rise, and China now has a new voice in the international arena. Ivanka's private plane slowly landed at Kyoto Airport, and China's honor guard laid a red carpet in front of the plane. Ivanka got on a stretched red flag sedan in a flash of light and drove towards the fishing platform. Just as many reporters and police followed a motorcade and left, an airplane staff member wearing a hat and a mask got off the plane, got on an inconspicuous bulletproof Volkswagen, and drove quickly to the suburbs. Ivanka took off her hat and untied her mask and sighed, sitting in the back of the Volkswagen in silence. Time passed by minute, and the Volkswagen drove onto a highway that had been under construction for 10 years. In the middle of the road, it turned to the mountain wall on the side. The mountain wall slowly opened, revealing a long tunnel inside. Tens of minutes later, Ivanka met the leaders of China and others in a secret base. "Let's not talk nonsense, you should see the top secret information we got from the Americans." After that, Ivanka took out the folder stuffed in her arms and handed it to China. "The solar system dungeon is now open, please vote for me." Chapter 39 Raid on the American Space Station. Bald Eagle Space Station in Earth orbit. Since the observatory discovered the wreckage of an alien spaceship in Jupiter's orbit 5 months ago, Bald Eagle has worked overtime to build all the components of this space station. The carrier rocket made nearly 50 round trips to send it to orbit. The entire space station is composed of 30 barrel-shaped cabins, and a huge inflatable dock extends outside the main body. The latest model of the American Eagle II spacecraft is being assembled in the dock. John leaned against the hanging window of the space station, quietly looking at the planet not far away and taking a sip of his drink. In another month, he will participate in the Jupiter exploration activity that takes 200 days to go back and forth. At that time, it is uncertain whether he can see this beautiful planet under him again. No. What is that? John found that several small light spots appeared not far away and flew towards the spaceship. Command Center, there is an unidentified object flying towards the 3 o'clock direction of the space station. Have you noticed it? John stared at the small light spots that kept approaching and said to the communicator in his hand. It may be your illusion. The space station radar has not found anything. John, are you hallucinating because of spring? Ha ha ha. John's colleague's teasing voice came from the communicator. FK, I'm not lying to you. Something is really approaching us, John said angrily. Ha ha ha. You see, our little John is anxious. Don't worry, go back to Earth and your brothers will introduce you to Victoria's secret angel. Haha. The communicator was hung up. John threw the communicator away fiercely and floated towards the weapon compartment, equipped with a self-defense tranquilizer gun. At this time, not far from the space station, 5 aerospace fighters that looked like space shuttles but were much smoother were flying towards the space station. In each aerospace fighter cabin, 2 rows of seats were occupied by 20 soldiers wearing exoskeleton spacesuits and armor. They wore black helmets with a logo of the Pan-Earth Alliance engraved on their armor shoulders. The dim light in the cabin made the black masks of these cold warriors look cold and terrifying. There are still 5 minutes to reach the space station. Remember, after obtaining the information we need, leave no one behind. Finally, the third team will blow up the space station, the leading officer ordered his subordinates in a deep voice. These 5 fighters are based on Xiao's stealth aerospace fighters, and are the latest aerospace fighters developed and manufactured by the 4 countries. As soon as this fighter was born, it was deployed to the Pan-Earth Alliance's aerospace forces. Now the task of these 5 teams is to snatch the Bald Eagle's information about alien spacecraft and destroy the spacecraft they are building, so that the Pan-Earth Alliance can capture the alien spacecraft first. Facts have proved that the stealth performance of this aerospace fighter is very good. It was discovered by the radar of the space station when it was less than 10 kilometers away from the space station. But it was too late to stop these fighters at this time. Dozens of missiles flew out from the 5 fighters, turning the defense warehouse of the space station into a pile of space junk. Then, as the fighters approached at high speed, hundreds of fully armed soldiers flew out from the belly of the 5 fighters. The soldiers' feet and back sprayed air, pushing them toward the opening of the space station. The astronauts on the space station went to the weapons bay and took out their weapons to resist. Unfortunately, the Bald Eagle did not expect that someone would dare to attack his space station and break through the defense circle formed by the space station's self-defense cabin. Because of his arrogance, the Bald Eagle only equipped the space station with 10 pitiful tranquilizer guns, which were prepared to prevent astronauts from suffering from mental illness due to loneliness. All this made the defense of the Bald Eagle's space station surprisingly weak. When the soldiers of the Pan-Earth Alliance blew open the closed hatch, they were faced with only the powerless tranquilizer bullets. Several tranquilizer bullets hit the mechanical exoskeleton of the Pan-Earth Alliance soldiers and were ruthlessly bounced off and flew into the vast space. The soldiers of the Pan-Earth Alliance ruthlessly raised their submachine guns and pulled the trigger. Silent bullets flew through the air, knocking the astronauts of the Bald Eagle out, and scarlet blood spilled from the astronauts' damaged spacesuits into space. The Alliance soldiers expressionlessly pushed the astronauts' bodies that were spraying blood aside and floated into the space station. Silent killings were staged along the way. From time to time outside the space station, cabins could be seen being broken from the inside with dozens of small holes, and blood was splashed from the small holes into space. Just when the person in charge of the space station wanted to delete all the useful data, he found that he had lost control of the computer. The computer of the space station had been hacked from the inside. There was a traitor. This was the last thought left in his mind. After a moment, his hands floated in the air with powerlessness, his eyes flashed with disbelief, and a trace of blood floated from his throat, which had a big hole in it, into the air. An astronaut whose face could not be seen floated out from behind the person in charge, holding a simply modified tranquilizer gun in his hand. He took the computer from the person in charge, transferred the data to the USB flash drive, and slowly floated away from the command cabin. This is a Trojan horse. The data has been processed, and you can evacuate, the astronaut said as he turned on the intercom beside his ear. The Pan-Earth Alliance soldiers, who had cleared all the staff in the space station, glued pieces of plastic bombs to each cabin, and then quickly returned to the Pan-Earth Alliance's aerospace fighter. As the fighter moved away, the space station left behind emitted a dazzling flame, and the originally huge space station was blown into countless fragments and scattered into space. Sheng Hulton, Baigong President, it's bad. We lost contact with the space station 30 minutes ago. According to radar scans, the space station should have been destroyed. We didn't receive any information before it was destroyed. The assistant hurriedly pushed open the door of the president's office and reported. Damn, the space station didn't send back any information. President Garcia put down the documents in his hand. Yes, it is estimated that the organization that attacked the space station has blocked the signal of the space station. However, we are screening the records of satellites in all directions within 2 hours, and we will report to you if there is any new progress. After the secretary finished speaking, he lowered his head and waited for Garcia's instructions. Immediately notify the Ministry of Defense and the National Space Administration to come to Baigong for a meeting. Garcia thought for a while and ordered. Even if he thought with his feet, he knew that only the Pan-Earth Alliance had such ability. 30 minutes later, everyone gathered in the meeting room of Baigong. Garcia glanced at everyone and asked, I guess you already know that our space station was destroyed by the Pan-Earth Alliance an hour ago. What should we do? Discuss a countermeasure. If not, we will go to war with the Pan-Earth Alliance. A general slapped the table and roared with saliva flying. How is it possible? The total economy of the Pan-Earth Alliance is twice that of ours. The military strength is even equal to ours. What can we use to fight? Do you really think that those guys in NATO will stand on our side in a war? Naive, the Minister of Defense said angrily. They are retaliating against our tough foreign policy, The Secretary of State on the side also interrupted. Everyone argued for a long time but couldn't come up with any solution. Chapter 40 Warning from an Unknown Civilization. Mingze hurried to the Supreme Research Institute and found that several chief scientists were anxiously waiting for him. This was very abnormal. Something important must have happened. You know, when he came before, no scientist came to greet him. They were all immersed in their own research and did not like public activities. Today, at least half of the chief scientists came. Hello, Your Majesty. A gentle middle-aged man with glasses came forward and greeted respectfully. This person was Zhang Yu, the director of the institute, and he was also the chief scientist responsible for the research and development of intelligent robots. Well, what happened? Why are you calling me here so anxiously? Mingze glanced at everyone and got straight to the point. Your Majesty. There is a problem with the intelligent robot. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Zhang Yu's tone was a little solemn. Let's go. Take me to see. Mingze raised his eyebrows, full of doubts. Yes. Your Majesty. Zhang Yu led the way quickly in front. Everyone followed him and came to an empty hall. The hall was empty all around, with only a huge host placed in the center. A monitor was connected to the host, and a meaningless voice was playing in a loop on the monitor. Mingze stopped in front of the host, staring at the screen in front of him with deep eyes. Your Majesty, the cause of the matter is this. Didn't you ask us to study simple intelligent robots to replace some human jobs because the population growth of the empire was too slow some time ago? Zhang Yu was panting in his words because he walked hurriedly. Well, I ordered it. Tianyi reported that your research progressed smoothly, Mingze affirmed after thinking for a moment. The problem lies here. When we started the first prototype of the newly developed intelligent robot, we received an unknown radio wave from the universe. A scientist next to Zhang Yu connected a translator and translated the audio on the host into Chinese and played it. Unknown civilization cannot develop advanced robots, otherwise we will come down to purify you. Immediately, destroy it. The voice was played. This is. Have you analyzed the source of the signal? Mingze asked in shock. Your Majesty, we didn't find the source of the signal. We received this information from all directions of the universe, and it appeared almost simultaneously in all the machines that could receive the signal. Zhang Yu adjusted his glasses and answered carefully. It's terrible. How did they know that we are researching artificial intelligence? Everyone whispered. Mingze was very troubled. The current population of the Empire can only colonize another star field, the size of the original Parker Alliance at most. The land that is conquered will have no population to manage and develop for at least 16 years. The intelligent robot that was originally expected to be very high also had such a thing. Now it can't even detect the location of the unknown civilization that sent the signal. It can be seen that the other party's technological level is many years ahead of the Sith Empire. The more unknown the danger, the more terrible it is. Now is not the time to anger it. The Empire is now in a development period and needs time to grow. The Empire has invested a lot of manpower and material resources in the intelligent robot project. Now that it is said to be terminated, Mingze feels heartbroken. But he still grits his teeth and makes up his mind, destroy the #1 test machine, seal the data, and no longer develop intelligent robots in the future. Mingze resolutely turned and walked out of the hall. As you command, Your Majesty. Zhang Yu's voice was a little trembling, and tears were almost bursting out of his eyes. This intelligent robot contains how much effort the scientists have put in. Only they themselves know how much effort they have put into it. They regard it as their own child, but now they have to destroy it with their own hands. The magnetic train slowly accelerated and left the research center quickly. On the train, Mingze was a little depressed. He closed his eyes and whispered, Tianyi, you are also considered advanced intelligence. Why didn't that mysterious civilization mention you? Tianyi's figure appeared beside Mingze. Your Majesty, my life is given by the highest law, and my existence has been blocked by the highest law. Moreover, I used to be a living person until that day. You used to be a human? What happened to make you what you are now? Mingze opened his eyes in surprise and asked curiously. Your Majesty, I don't want to talk, so don't ask, Tianyi answered in a depressed tone. Okay, I won't ask. Tell me when you want to talk. As soon as Mingze finished speaking, Tianyi's figure disappeared in the carriage. It has been 30 days since the Red Dragon II spacecraft was launched. In the orbit of Mars, a bloated spacecraft is slowly accelerating in the orbit of Mars using the rotation of Mars. In the cockpit, Guomo was watching the TV series he copied on Earth with great interest. These 3 hours were his duty time, while the other people were resting in the living cabin. Beep, beep, beep. The beeping sound of a flashing triangle attracted Guomo's attention. This is the radar. Guomo instantly turned his head to the screen showing the radar interface, and saw a small red dot on the screen approaching them quickly. Guomo had a bad feeling in his heart. Come to the cockpit quickly, emergency. Guomo hurriedly picked up the intercom and shouted to the other 3 people in the living cabin. The 3 people who were originally lazy immediately put on their spacesuits and rushed to the cockpit. What happened? The first astronaut from country Y, Mingze, asked. Look, something is approaching us. Guomo pointed to the small red dot on the screen that was already very close. Looking at the red dot getting closer and closer, Guomo decisively said, "Start the spacecraft defense system." Yes, Captain. Mingze rushed to the operating table and operated it quickly with both hands. 4 semicircular laser launchers slowly extended from the ring of the bloated Red Dragon II spacecraft to prepare for self-defense, but they were a step too late. They underestimated the speed of the enemy ship, which had arrived in an instant and attacked the Red Dragon II. Warning, the spacecraft is under attack, and the armor is beginning to be damaged. At this moment, a slight explosion sounded from the spacecraft. Asshole! Dare to attack us? Let's see how we can repair it. Mexico, who came later, stabilized his body and cursed angrily. But the American Eagle, which had completed the sneak attack, did not give the Red Dragon II a chance to counterattack. It instantly accelerated and surpassed the Red Dragon II and flew forward. Guomo and others watched helplessly as the American spacecraft flew out of the range of their own spacecraft, and they were so angry that their teeth itched. Check the spacecraft quickly. Which equipment was destroyed? Guomo responded quickly and ordered. After some investigation, everyone found that only the communicator at the stern was destroyed, and other parts were not seriously damaged. However, due to the slight explosion, they slightly deviated from the expected orbit, which meant that they would arrive at their destination 18 hours later. Seeing that the speed of the American spacecraft was so much faster than theirs, their confidence in getting the alien wreckage first was severely hit. But there is still a glimmer of hope, so we can't give up. Everything is possible, right? They continued to fly towards Jupiter to fight for that glimmer of possibility. After dozens of days of flying, Guomo and others passed through the asteroid belt and came to the vicinity of Jupiter's halo. At this time, everyone could see the huge planet in the distance through the hanging window. Captain, do you think that is the wreckage of an alien spacecraft? Mexico said excitedly to Guomo. Guomo turned his head, and sure enough, there was a huge white spaceship above the halo of Jupiter in the distance. There was a big hole in the tail of the spaceship, and the American spaceship was docked at the big hole at this time. It's a bit strange. Why do I feel so weird inexplicably? Mingze frowned and said, her sixth sense has always been very accurate. Chapter 41, Fierce Battle in the Wreckage. Guomo decided to proceed cautiously and sent Mingze and Mexico to drive the aerospace fighter plane slowly towards the alien spacecraft. Be careful. Mingze fired a laser to eliminate the drone that was hiding in the ice debris of Jupiter's ring. Mexico was shocked and hurriedly pulled up the fighter plane. But they didn't expect that a steady stream of drones would fly out from the ice debris below the 2 fighter planes. Mingze reacted quickly and rolled sideways to avoid a drone that was hitting it. Mexico on the other side was not so lucky. The remaining dozens of drones flew towards his fighter plane. Die. Mexico pulled up and pushed the joystick hard in the air. The aerospace fighter plane suddenly lowered its head and flew down to meet the drone. Mexico kept pressing the fire switch on the joystick. Countless small missiles on the aerospace fighter plane flew towards the drone group. Just as he was about to pass through the fireball caused by the missile explosion and leave in style, countless missiles flew out from the drone group, intercepting and destroying the missiles fired by the aerospace fighter plane in advance. At this time, it was too late for Mexico, who had already plunged into the drone group, to pull up his fighter to avoid it. Mingze, who was avoiding drones in the distance, watched Mexico's fighter plane dive into the drone group, and the huge explosion blew away the surrounding drones. No, Guomo, who was in the spaceship, screamed and slammed his fist on the hanging window. Mingze gritted his teeth, turned the thrusters to the maximum, and rushed towards the American spaceship regardless of the drone group's pursuit. What is it going to do? It's flying towards us. Hurry up and shoot it down, the 2 astronauts on the American spaceship screamed in fear. The Guardian Eagle spaceship slowly turned its bow, trying to use the laser weapon on the bow to eliminate Inge's fighter plane, but it was too late. Inge, who came close to the Guardian Eagle, squeezed the trigger in his hand fiercely, and dozens of missiles attacked the American spaceship. Although the Guardian Eagle was equipped with a self-defense interception device, it could not withstand the attack of too many micro-missiles and the distance was too close. Accompanied by the vibration caused by the violent explosion, Mingze pulled up the nose of the aircraft and flew upward along the outer wall of the alien spacecraft. The drones in the air continued to chase Mingze's aerospace fighter, and did not lose their ability to move because the spacecraft controlling them was destroyed. Their mission required them to faithfully complete the last instruction they received even if they lost control, to blow up the aerospace fighter. The drone group passed through the flames caused by the explosion of the spacecraft and followed Mingze closely along the outer wall of the alien spacecraft. Only the first few did not react and crashed into the wreckage of the spacecraft, causing another round of explosions. Mingze, prepare to abandon the aircraft. Those drones are aiming at your fighter, Guomo shouted into the communicator in the distance. After observation, he found that even if a drone passed by their spacecraft, it did not launch an attack, which means that the enemy's drones can only target one target at a time. After receiving the message, Mingze switched the aerospace fighter to autopilot mode, unbuckled his seat belt, and rushed to the hatch on the side of the ship. I hope your guess is right. Mingze jumped out of the hatch after this thought flashed through his mind. Sure enough, the following drone mistook it for floating space junk and rolled past her. Then the space fighter in the distance was caught up by dozens of drones, and they collided and exploded with huge flames. Guomo and another crew member drove the spacecraft slowly to Mingze's side and picked him up. Mingze took off his helmet and sat on the seat after entering the cabin. His heart was beating fast. Obviously, he had not recovered from the battle just now. He took the towel handed over by Guomo and wiped the sweat from his forehead. This is a relief. 2 fighters are gone at once, Guomo said jokingly. In fact, he just wanted to liven up the somewhat dull atmosphere, but Mingze still punched him. However, the two soon fell silent. They were very sad for the sacrifice of Mexico. Another crew member, Bauer, stepped forward and patted the two on the shoulders. The 3 people who were in a better mood also docked the spacecraft at the damaged part of the alien spacecraft. Guomo was still in command of the spacecraft, while Angel and Ball put on mechanical exoskeleton spacesuits and slowly floated into the interior of the alien spacecraft. The dark passage was penetrated by 2 beams of strong light. Angel and Ball slowly floated into the cabin and groped forward carefully. Suddenly, the hatch they passed through was closed, and the lights in the corridor lit up. A figure appeared at the end of the corridor, and Angel and Ball were so scared that they hurriedly raised their guns. Cough, cough, cough. The figure coughed twice and fell to the ground. Angel pointed his gun at the fallen figure. Ball walked forward and pulled out the special handcuffs from his waist. When he was about to handcuff the alien, he found that the other party had shriveled up like a mummy. After scanning, there is no sign of life. Ball shook his head at Angel. Look for any surviving aliens, Angel put down the gun and said. After searching for a while, the two only found some ores and energy crystals of unknown use. There were no other creatures except the dead alien. When the two returned to the spaceship, the bow of the Red Dragon Eye cracked, and 4 mechanical arms stretched out from it. The 4 mechanical arms firmly grasped the damaged edge of the alien spaceship. Then the side of the Red Dragon Eye ejected airflow, turning itself and the huge alien spaceship around and flying towards the Earth. Because it needed to carry this behemoth, the spaceship could no longer accelerate through the gravity of the planet, and could only use its own engine to fly back slowly. Although the weight of the alien spaceship exceeded expectations, the time required was more than half of the original estimate, but because a crew member was sacrificed, the materials could still be used frugally to return to the Earth. What they didn't know was that the Pan-Earth Alliance launched a second spaceship 6 months after the Red Dragon Eye spaceship lost contact with the Earth. The technology was more advanced, and the spaceship was accelerating towards Jupiter. And one of the members was Li Jialu, who wanted to forget Li Mingze through this top-secret exploration mission. A few months ago, her family, who were very worried about her condition, thought that this was a good opportunity for Li Jialu to cheer up when they learned that the National Space Shuttle was recruiting high-tech personnel, so they actively encouraged her to sign up for the project. Because her family had a grandfather who was a high-ranking military officer, she was successfully shortlisted. Later, Because of her 3 doctoral degrees in astronomy, physics, and medicine, she became the captain of the rescue team, giving Li Jielu the opportunity to fly to Jupiter. The Rescuer is the name of the second spacecraft launched by the Pan-Earth Alliance. This spacecraft pioneered the use of a deep sleep system to reduce the crew's consumption, so as to achieve the purpose of maintaining a longer voyage. Under the guidance of the command center, the spacecraft slowly accelerated to leave the Earth's gravitational circle and flew towards Jupiter. Tomorrow the author will be recommended 3 updates next Wednesday. Leave some votes for the author every day. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Mysterious Button. 13,000 kilometers from Jupiter, inside the Rescuer, Li Jielu closed the tablet and stared at Jupiter in the distance. In 10 minutes, the spacecraft will reach the halo surrounding Jupiter. Jupiter is magnificent in the sun, and countless ice slag, meteorites, and dust form this beautiful yellow halo. Reach the target orbit in 5 minutes, the system's synthesized voice came from the computer. Li Jielu quickly pressed a few keys, and the image on the halo was captured by the lens with up to 1 billion pixels. As Li Jielu kept pressing, it slowly enlarged. Nothing. The place where the wreckage of the alien spacecraft should have been was empty. Li Jielu's pupils shrank instantly. Wait, what is that? Li Jielu's sharp eyes quickly found something unusual on the screen. She quickly enlarged the image and saw a piece of black wreckage with half of the Pan-Earth Alliance logo on it. If she remembered correctly, this shape of wreckage must come from the kind of aerospace fighter carried on her spacecraft. The Alliance's spacecraft must have encountered some kind of attack here. Hey, she soon discovered that under this wreckage, there was a strangely shaped cross-shaped wreckage. She hurriedly woke up Alan, Danji, and Ivanov who were sleeping. Danji soon drove the aerospace fighter to salvage the one-person high cross-shaped wreckage back to the side of the Rescuer. Alan was responsible for staying behind. Li Jielu and Ivanov flew towards the wreckage, and the light on the spacesuit shone on the wreckage, reflecting a silvery white light. This wreckage doesn't look like a man-made object. Look at this material. It's like jade and metal, Li Jielu said to Ivanov. Let me see what material it is. Ivanov aimed the laser cutter in his hand at the shell of the wreckage and pressed the switch. After a few seconds, the place illuminated by the cutting laser did not change at all, and it was still as smooth as jade. Ivanov did not believe in evil and adjusted the cutting laser to the maximum power and aimed it at the shell of the wreckage again. After dozens of seconds, the laser cutter emitted a red flash of power failure. When the cutter was removed, they found that there was no damage on the original shell. The two were dumbfounded. This temperature did not cut it open. What kind of power could destroy it like this? This must be beyond the reach of conventional weapons on Earth. The two and Danji, who had parked the fighter plane and rushed over, pushed it into the cargo hold of the spacecraft. With the help of the bright light in the cabin, the three found that there were several unknown interfaces and a red switch on the wreckage. The red switch was covered by a glass-like cover with an ambiguous symbol printed on it. I guess it must say that it is forbidden to touch, Li Jielu said to the two with a smile. I think so too, but there is only one red switch in the entire white wreckage, which makes people always want to press it inexplicably. Ivanov scratched his head and was entangled. According to a small experiment, a person is placed in a room with a small button that says don't press it. Even if the person inside knows that pressing it may destroy the world, before he is sure of the answer, his strong curiosity will definitely drive him to press the button. Now the three of them were facing such a situation. There was only one small button in the wreckage that they could use. Why don't we try to press it? This thing doesn't look like a weapon. Besides, it has fallen from the spacecraft and has been severely damaged. It should be fine, Danji, who was afraid of chaos in the world, suggested. Okay, Li Jielu said and stretched out her hand. Don't really press it, the two exclaimed after seeing Li Jielu's action. But Danji and Ivanov obviously underestimated Li Jielu's persistence. In the blink of an eye, Li Jielu had lifted the glass cover on the button. No, the two wanted to stop it but it was too late. Li Jielu had already pressed the button hard. Quiet. Unexpectedly quiet. Nothing happened. The three of them breathed a sigh of relief. I was just kidding, but you really pressed it? Danji's face was full of fear. Did it happen that nothing happened? So that everyone wouldn't be entangled there, Li Jialu shrugged as if nothing had happened, turned around and floated out of the warehouse. Danji and Ivanov looked at each other and floated away. Inside the wreckage that no one could see, a few remaining energy crystals slowly disappeared, and a red light flashed on the outer shell of the wreckage, but the 3 people who had already left the cargo hold did not notice it. The few people who had just sat down found that the outer shell of their spaceship began to flash an inexplicable blue light. What's going on? Li Jialu and others were panicked. The energy detector shows that there is a large amount of dissipated energy outside our spaceship, Alan shouted anxiously. A few seconds later, the rescuer disappeared from Jupiter's orbit in a blue flash. Thank you, Li Jialu, we will never see the Earth again. Ivanov looked at the endless purple world outside the window in despair and muttered to himself. How could I know that this thing is actually some kind of super light speed engine, but after my deduction, we are probably no longer in the original time and space. Li Jialu was also a little annoyed. We know without you saying it that the original time and space is not this endless purple. Ivanov's tone was a little heavy. Li Jialu felt guilty and could only comfort everyone. Entering this hyperspace should consume energy. It is estimated that we can leave here in 1 or 2 days at most, maybe 1 or 2 hours, probably. Maybe, in the end, she herself did not believe it. Let's hope. The others closed their eyes helplessly. 10 days later, inside the rescuer, it's been 10 days and we haven't left this damn space yet. I feel sick when I see purple now. If I can return to Earth in the future, I will definitely throw away all the purple things in my house, Danji yelled while lying on his bed. Fortunately, several people are carefully selected astronauts. Even in such a desperate situation, their mentality is still good. Of course, this is because the supplies in the ship can still support for a long time. Unless they reach a real desperate situation, everyone will not be abnormal. Li Jialu paddled the tablet in her hand. She didn't dare to answer now, because her impulse caused everyone to enter this unknown space and couldn't get out. In the end, she fantasized that she could get out in a few days, but reality slapped her in the face. 20 days after the spacecraft entered the unknown space, Li Jialu and the other 4 were sitting together, each holding a tablet in their hands and playing cards. 20 days of despair and boredom had passed, and they were still unable to escape from this boundless purple world. They had lost the idea of getting out, and now they just wanted to spend the last period of their lives happily. Although they had prepared for death before they set off, they did not expect that they would die in unknown space. This was the first time in human history, and perhaps future generations would be able to enter this space and find their remains. Chapter 43 Unknown Galaxy? 57 days have passed since the spaceship jumped into hyperspace. At this time, Li Jialu and others were sitting in the cockpit board. They were no longer in the mood to watch movies or TV series. Now they were discussing how to give themselves a decent death, so that when future generations enter this space and find their bodies, they would not have a headline like 4 bodies with horrible deaths were found in the spaceship. It is speculated that they were caused by psychological breakdown and personality distortion. Why don't we drain the oxygen in the spaceship? Danji suggested. Others shook their heads. Are you stupid? People who die of lack of oxygen have very scary expressions. Okay, then let's cut our wrists, Alan also suggested. The blood will be all over your face and weightlessness. No, Li Jialu protested. Then tell me how to commit suicide. Everyone looked at Li Jialu. Li Jialu touched his nose. We adjust the concentration of the hypnotic gas in the deep sleep ventilator and cancel the timed shutdown function. Wouldn't we fall asleep peacefully? Good idea. Let's do it. Everyone seconded. At this moment, the mysterious blue electric light outside the hull appeared again. This is it. We can get out. Li Jialu and others recognized at a glance that this was the culprit that caused them to enter this purple space. After a while, the purple in front of everyone suddenly turned into a beautiful starry sky. The white stars in the distance became more beautiful against a backdrop of the golden nebula. This made Li Jialu and others who had been watching purple for 2 months excited and burst into tears. Even if they didn't know where this was, whether there was a planet that could survive. But as long as it wasn't in that damn purple space, it would be fine. At this time, in the Sith military space station hundreds of millions of kilometers away from the rescuer. Report to the commander. A sergeant hurriedly ran to the station master's lounge. What's the matter? The station master, who was browsing a beauty magazine, hid the magazine in his hand under the sofa pillow without leaving a trace. Hyperspace fluctuations have appeared in the orbit of the third planet in the home system. It is suspected that an unidentified object has broken in, the sergeant reported. The station master hurriedly stood up. Notify everyone, the space station is in an emergency state of readiness. All garrison fleets take off, no matter what it is best to be prepared. Yes, the sergeant saluted and trotted out. In the originally quiet space station port, the 20 light cruisers and 5 destroyers of the Imperial Royal Guard, which were docked, hurriedly started the reactors, slowly lifted off from the port, and flew to the place where the unknown space fluctuations appeared. Inside the rescuer, after observing the star map, it can be determined that this is a star field unknown to humans. We should be very far away from the solar system, and we don't know where exactly. Li Jielu raised his head and looked at everyone. Because of the waste of our oxygen in the alien space, we can only support the nearest planet now. Alan, who was on the side, announced the unfortunate news to everyone in a heavy tone after checking the remaining supplies. Then if this planet is not a habitable planet, we are also dead. Danji, who was originally cheerful, was also a little depressed at this moment. Li Jielu raised his head and looked at the gray planet in the distance and slowly said, "Go to the nearest planet. This is the only way for now." The distant planet exuded a dead atmosphere under the light of the star. One day later, Li Jielu and others who were flying to the planet Homii suddenly found that dozens of UFOs appeared on the radar and were approaching at high speed. This is it. Have we encountered an alien civilization? Everyone was shocked. Will we be dissected as experimental materials or exhibited as rare animals? Li Jielu's mind flashed a picture. She was tied to the operating table naked, a group of arthropods were scanning her with scanners, and some used knives to cut a few pieces of meat from her body for research. Soon, an alien inserted a metal needle into her brain, read the location of the Earth, and then led the alien fleet to land on the Earth. Then eat all the Earthlings. Then she became the only Earthling left and was put in a place like a zoo for aliens to visit. There was also a sign outside the exhibition hall: Earthlings of wild protected animals are not allowed to feed or hunt. Violators will be fined. It's terrible. Just as Li Jielu was thinking about it, the spacecraft received a message from a UFO, and Alan opened the message. Unknown ship. Turn off your power engines and weapons, and wait for the Marines to board the ship. Everyone stared at each other. They were speaking Chinese? Why did the aliens speak Chinese? Could it be that they did not enter the superluminal space, but entered the space-time tunnel? Has China unified the universe? Forced by the situation, Li Jielu and others shut down the spacecraft's reactor after discussion and took back the external laser transmitter. Dozens of Imperial warships outside the spacecraft slowly surrounded the small rescuer. The huge destroyer blocked the starry sky. Li Jielu looked out of the hanging window. The huge warships hundreds of meters long were lined with gun muzzles. The faint lights shone through the gaps in the armor, and the engines at the tail sprayed blue flames. Incredible. It's incredible. These warships are so spectacular. Several people stared at the several huge destroyers flying past the spacecraft and muttered to themselves. They didn't know that the Marines of the Imperial Royal Guard fleet were worried about how they were going to land on such a small spaceship. They would be crowded in such a small space when they entered. "Captain, how about putting it directly in the cargo hold of the warship?" a soldier asked in a low voice. The captain of the Marine Corps nodded helplessly. Several tractor drones flew out of the cargo hold of the destroyer and came to the rescuer, using tractor beams to pull the rescuer into the cargo hold in the belly of the destroyer. The door of the cargo hold slowly closed, and oxygen was released from the top of the cargo hold. The artificial gravity system was also activated, and the rescuer fell to the ground with a bang under the action of gravity, and Li Jielu and others inside were also shocked. In the red flash of the emergency alarm, several teams of Imperial Marines wearing power armor surrounded the rescuer, and the dark crystal visors made it impossible for outsiders to see their expressions. "Listen, people in the spaceship, raise your hands or other hands. Get out of the spaceship," the leading Marine captain shouted loudly on the ship's radio. "Let's go out." Li Jielu looked at the other three. Several people stared at each other, but didn't say anything. Li Jielu said helplessly, "Okay, you are so cowardly, let's go out." After that, Li Jielu took the lead and walked to the hatch. In a burst of exhaust sound, the hatch of the rescuer slowly opened. Li Jielu and others climbed out of the spaceship in their spacesuits. Because the hatch was located on the top of the spaceship, everyone standing on the top of the spaceship in turn. "Don't move. Slide down slowly," The officer was very satisfied to see them cooperate so well. Helpless, Li Jialu and a few others slid down from the spaceship slowly, but unexpectedly, the soldiers grabbed their hands as soon as they reached the ground. Chapter 44 Shock. As Li Jialu and others were detained by the Marines took off their helmets. They didn't care whether the creatures inside the helmets could adapt to human oxygen. Li Jialu glared at the soldier who violently opened her helmet. Fortunately, the air here was completely suitable for human survival, otherwise she would have died in this guy's hands. Huh? Is it a human? Or a beautiful woman? The leading sergeant asked in confusion. But then the sergeant's face became heavy, because after his facial scan, he found that he could not find information about these people in the Empire's population database. Keep an eye on them, they may be spies created by unknown civilizations using human genes. The Empire does not have their information, the sergeant said in a deep voice. Yes, sir. Several Marines escorted Li Jialu and others out of the warehouse. They walked through a long corridor and came to an isolation room, which was used to isolate soldiers with malignant infectious diseases, such as the supervirus released by Mingze against the Parker civilization not long ago. Li Jialu and others were pushed into the isolation room, and with a bang, the heavy isolation door was slammed shut. Several things that looked like nozzles stretched out from the room, spraying high-speed water mist at the four people. In a moment, several people were sprayed all over. Damn, are they disinfecting us? Tianyi muttered dissatisfiedly. Captain, we seem to be imprisoned. Ivanov shook the disinfectant on his head, looked around and said to Li Jialu. Li Jialu rolled his eyes. It's good that they didn't slice us up. What's wrong with imprisoning us? Isn't it better than slicing? But what if they don't have the conditions for dissection on this ship? Tianyi pouted and looked a little funny. With a snap, Li Jialu slammed the helmet in his hand into Tianyi's arms, knocking him back a step. Hey, well, I want everyone to relax, Tianyi weakly defended. Can you speak? Don't disturb the morale of the army, Li Jialu glared at him fiercely. About 20 minutes later, the door of the isolation room was opened, and 4 fully armed soldiers walked in, and 4 chairs with handcuffs and a set of normal tables and chairs slowly rose on the floor of the room. Several soldiers came forward and handcuffed Li Jialu and the other 4 to the chairs. A tall middle-aged officer who looked to be in a high position walked into the isolation room and sat opposite them, while the soldiers stood behind him with guns. With a sound of exhaust, the man took off his dark helmet, revealing a dark middle-aged uncle's face. Tell me, how did you enter the Empire, and what is your purpose? The middle-aged officer asked in a deep voice. People. It's people. Or Chinese, yellow skin, black hair and black eyes. Li Jialu and others shouted in their hearts. At this moment, the shock in their hearts could not be expressed in words. Tell me. Who are you? Why are you not in the Empire's citizen database? Where did your spaceship come from? How did your spaceship jump into the galaxy? Tell me, the middle-aged officer asked the 4 dazed people repeatedly, looking at them with sharp eyes. But perhaps because he was also a human, the 4 of them were not afraid of him, and their originally nervous and fearful mood was relieved. We are from Earth. Do you know Earth? Li Jialu looked at the black-faced officer eagerly, hoping to hear a positive answer from him. What Earth? I haven't heard of it. How did you get here? The middle-aged officer frowned. The 4 of them were immediately disappointed. Could it be that they could never return to Earth again? That, we picked up an unknown instrument, which threw us into purple space, and then we are here, Alan answered in not very fluent Chinese. Oh? Are you a primitive civilization? And are you the same race as us? But it is not ruled out that you are the product of gene cloning from other civilizations. I will report this to His Majesty the Emperor. The middle-aged officer stood up, adjusted the collar under his armor, picked up his helmet, and turned to leave. 1 day later, 5 soldiers opened the door of the isolation room and walked in. The leading soldier pointed at Li Jialu and the other 4 and said, "Let's go, escort them to the landing ship and send them to the prison on the Sith planet." Several soldiers came forward and handcuffed Li Jialu and the others behind their backs, escorted the 4 people out of the isolation room, and walked through the long corridor again, and came to an airlock. With the sound of several gas injections, the heavy airlock door slowly opened to both sides, revealing a transparent corridor. At the end of the corridor was a silver streamlined spacecraft, which was surrounded by blue flames from time to time, as if maintaining a balance with the battleship behind them. As everyone stepped into the transparent passage, Li Jialu and the others opened their mouths in surprise and looked at a huge space station not far away. No. It should be called a space city. With the development of the Sith Empire's extraterrestrial colonies, a large amount of civilian transportation has expanded the civilian port of the Sith planet again and again, from the original small space station of several kilometers long to the current huge space city with a diameter of tens of kilometers. The huge space station port is divided into 8 directions from the bottom of the city, extending dozens of kilometers in all directions. Countless spacecraft take off and land in these spider web-like huge ports. And around the city, Li Jialu and others also found hundreds of huge unknown artillery turrets. All of this subverted their outlook on life and values. After entering the landing ship, the door behind Li Jialu is tightly closed. Everyone has not recovered at this moment. The scene just now is too shocking. What is the world's tallest building? What is Apple's headquarters? And what Dubai is so ridiculous compared to it? They can't even imagine how advanced this civilization is. If this civilization discovers the Earth, what will happen is simply unimaginable. Captain, if they search the computer on our spacecraft and find the star map that our solar system can observe, will they analyze the location of our solar system from this? Alan looked bitter. Li Jialu shook her hair. Huh? Who am I, the captain? I deleted the star map before leaving the ship, and also physically destroyed it. After saying that, Li Jialu made a smashing motion with her handcuff behind her back. Don't whisper to each other, hurry up, several soldiers urged twice, and Li Jialu shrugged and walked towards the landing ship. As the belly armor of the spacecraft was rubbed by the atmosphere to emit a red light, the landing ship descended towards the capital of the Sith. Li Jialu and others sat quietly by the hanging window, staring at the colorful city in the distance in a daze. As the height of the spacecraft decreased, the boundless steel city appeared in front of everyone, and the huge building that was inserted into the sky not far away exuded a silver-white glow. Whether it was a holographic advertisement that was hundreds of meters long and wide, or a small spaceship and hovercraft that shuttled between buildings to form strips of light, or a huge imperial flag that rippled on the outer wall of a high-rise building with the wind. All of this shocked Li Jialu and others. They looked around curiously like Grandma Liu entering the Grand View Garden. A huge airflow was ejected from the bottom of the landing ship, and with the help of the anti-gravity engine, it slowly landed above a prison. The entire prison was like an inverted bowl, and the semicircular main body was cast with several meters of concrete-like materials. The 4 of them, under the guard of a group of prison guards wearing exoskeletons, entered a cell specially prepared for them. Along the way, the walls were covered with large characters that read "Loyal to the Empire." Loyal to your Majesty. It seems that this is an imperial country. This kind of dictatorship must be the best at all kinds of torture. Danji started to talk nonsense again. Shut up. No one will treat you as a mute if you don't speak. Li Jialu felt a little helpless about Danji. At this time, the middle-aged official in charge of them turned around and ran to the communications office to report the matter to His Majesty Li Mingze. Thank you. Murphy's Law 2017, Book Friend 201,703, Astronomy and Geography and Book Friend 151,210 for your rewards. Passers-by, please collect it. Chapter 45, Meeting Again After Several Years. Inside the blue brick room, Li Mingze was lying on the sofa, holding Xia Osha in his arms, and 2 maids were feeding him watermelon 1 spoonful at a time. Your Majesty, the Imperial Royal Guards have captured a smuggled spaceship in the new Homestar system. An officer appeared on the screen beside him. It was the dark-faced middle-aged officer who was interrogating Li Jialu and others in the isolation room. Li Mingze leisurely spit the watermelon seeds into the maid's jade hand, chewing the newly stuffed watermelon in his mouth. Oh? Where did the smuggled spaceship come from? Is there a new civilization, Your Majesty? There are 4 of them in total, claiming that they are from Earth, but we do not rule out that they are spies created by a hidden civilization using genetic technology, the dark-faced officer reported respectfully. With a puff, Li Mingze sprayed the watermelon in his mouth all over the floor. The maid next to him hurriedly came over with a towel to wipe it clean. Where did it come from? Say it again. Li Mingze stood up, and his emotions were obviously a little excited. Your Majesty, they said they came from Earth. Ahem, they came from Earth. Interesting. Li Mingze coughed twice and pretended to be calm. Where are they now? In the Empire Prison Number 1. Bring them to see me tomorrow. Li Mingze looked forward to the meeting tomorrow. As soon as the sky was light, Li Jialu and the other 4 people in the prison were ordered by several female prison guards to take off their clothes in the cell, separated room, and put on tight white uniforms to prevent anyone from carrying weapons. Li Jialu and others walked to the top floor of the prison, and a transparent escort spaceship slowly descended. The crystal-like outer wall opened downwards, and a ladder was extended. Everyone boarded the spaceship one by one. Driven by the anti-gravity engine, the spaceship shuttled through the tall buildings. From time to time, everyone could see a picture of a heroic young man wearing black and gold armor, holding a scepter, and looking up at the starry sky at a 45-degree angle on the holographic screen of the building. Below the portrait was a subtitle of loyalty to the Empire and loyalty to the Great Majesty. Soon the spaceship approached the tallest building in the entire city. In the square in front of this huge silver-white building that pierced the sky like a 3-edged military bayonet, Li Jialu and others saw a silver statue hundreds of meters high. The young man in the statue had a handsome big hair, wore a mighty armor, put his hands on the scepter standing in front of him, and stared sharply into the distance. Li Jialu felt that the statue was familiar, but she couldn't put her finger on it. After all, Li Mingze's temperament was completely different from before after 5 years of being an emperor. His figure was taller and stronger than when he was a student. Moreover, Li Mingze in the statue not only revealed a strong sense of confidence, but also full of murderous intent. The sightseeing spaceship soon stopped on the blue brick apron. Li Jialu and others were handcuffed and put on something like a necklace. This was a device specially prepared by Tianyi to protect Li Mingze's safety. If there was any improper behavior under her monitoring, the necklace would instantly release high-voltage electricity and neurotoxins, quickly making people lose their ability to move. After the scan in front of the gate confirmed that they were safe, they came to the blue brick hall. 20 guards in black armor were already waiting on both sides of the hall. After Li Jialu and others came, they sandwiched the 4 people in the middle and walked towards the meeting hall. The meeting hall is located on the first floor of the blue brick. It is a hall hundreds of meters long, more than 10 meters wide and high. Opposite the gate is a 3-meter-high platform. Go up the stairs and there is a huge throne on the platform. A large number of silver metal carvings are decorated around the throne. The throne is luxurious and solemn. Li Mingze is making a fist with one hand, supporting his forehead with his fist and resting his elbow on his knee, pretending to be a thinker. That's right, he is pretending to be deep. He wants to fool these people into becoming his vanguard to rule the earth. Li Jialu and others came to the door of the meeting hall. The 2 guards on both sides of the gate slowly opened a huge metal door. 20 guards entered the hall first, and then stood in 2 teams. The 4 of them walked slowly into the hall under the watchful eyes of the guards. As soon as they stepped into the hall, they heard a bang and the door behind them was tightly closed. The whole hall was empty as if only the 4 of them were left. "Are you from Earth?" a dull voice sounded in front of the crowd. Because there was no light, the hall seemed a little dim. A few people could only vaguely see a man in armor sitting on a huge throne. It must be the emperor of this powerful empire. "Yes, Your Majesty, we are from the distant Earth." "Well, we come with good intentions." Li Jialu stepped forward and knelt on one knee and said. "After all, this is someone else's territory. No matter what etiquette they have, they will follow the rules on Earth first." The other people also knelt on one knee, fearing that they would be dragged down and shot for some crime of contempt for the emperor if they were a step slower. At this time, Li Mingze, who was sitting on the throne and pretending to be cool, was also a little confused. This voice was so familiar, the more he thought about it, the more familiar it became. The one who spoke, "Raise your head." As soon as the voice fell, the lights in the hall immediately brightened up and everyone couldn't open their eyes. Li Jialu raised his head slowly with a nervous mood. Li Mingze, who was sitting on the throne, almost choked to death on his saliva. Isn't this the Li Jialu he confessed to before traveling through time? At that time, he confessed with the purpose of getting familiar with her. He knew he would be rejected, but he didn't take it seriously. How could it be such a coincidence that they could meet each other after traveling across light years? At this time, Li Jialu's brain was also blank. Why does this person look so much like Li Mingze? Didn't he disappear? Did he commit suicide for love? How did he become the emperor of an alien planet? It must be that they just look alike, for sure. Li Jialu hypnotized himself and didn't dare to look directly at him for a long time and lowered his head. Li Mingze returned to his icy face without a trace and asked, "How did you get here from Earth? Does Earth have superluminal technology?" He was very curious now. With the technology of Earth, it would take at least dozens or hundreds of years to have superluminal technology. This Li Jialu seemed to be only a few years older. Could it be that after traveling through time, the technology of Earth has developed rapidly, and even lifespan can be extended? Your Majesty, we found a damaged alien spaceship in the orbit of a star. When we went to salvage it, we accidentally activated a device and were sent here. Li Jialu didn't dare to ask if it was Li Mingze, so she could only put the question in her stomach and answered honestly. I know, you go down. The Empire will arrange a place for you to live and give you freedom, but it will be freedom under the surveillance of the Empire. Several people were overjoyed to hear that they would regain their freedom. They didn't care whether it was freedom under surveillance or not. When they came, they didn't expect to gain freedom so easily. Okay, you go down. Li Mingze waved his hand. Thank you, Your Majesty. Several people thanked sincerely at this time. Also, the girl stays, Li Mingze said after a mental struggle. He didn't know that his words were misunderstood by the other people. The three looked at Li Jialu with strange eyes and walked out helplessly, shaking their heads from time to time with regret. Such a good cabbage on Earth was about to be taken away by alien pigs. If Li Mingze could read minds, these people would have died countless times. Creaking, after everyone left, the door of the hall closed together. The sound of the door closing stimulated Li Jialu to tremble violently. Chapter 46 Jurassic Creatures. After finishing his meal, Li Mingze lay on the sofa, touching his round belly. With a beautiful woman by his side, he had a good appetite and ate twice as much at a time. Your Majesty, it's not long since you brought another one back. Tianyi pouted and appeared on the sofa. Ahem, this is an acquaintance I knew before, not my girlfriend. Don't think too much. After that, Li Mingze touched the head of Tianyi's projection. Humph, I came here for something else. Tianyi turned his head away to prevent someone from succeeding. Oh? What do you want to talk to me about? Li Mingze asked curiously. The scientific exploration ship found some anomalies. They found habitable galaxies and several consecutive galaxies. This situation is very abnormal, Tianyi said with a straight face. Li Mingze fell into deep thought. This is indeed abnormal. You know, there are 300 billion stars in the Milky Way, and among the planets orbiting these stars, there are only about 60 billion habitable planets, and there are less than 100 million planets that are suitable for human habitation. The colonies that the Empire has already found are all found in hundreds of galaxies within tens of light years. With this probability, Li Mingze feels that he is lucky. Now, there are several connected galaxies with planets that can be inhabited by humans. This is definitely not lucky. There is a problem. Send 10 more scientific research ships to increase the detection of galaxies around these galaxies. I will come here in person. If Li Jialu comes to find me, just say I am out. Li Mingze got up from the sofa and walked towards the office. Yes, Your Majesty, Tianyi said and disappeared on the sofa. On the outskirts of a galaxy 137 light-years away from the home galaxy, a silver-white exploration and research ship jumped out of hyperspace and flew towards a habitable planet that has been discovered. Li Mingze stood in front of the huge French window at the bow with his hands behind his back, looking at the mysterious planet full of vitality in the distance. A researcher in a white uniform behind him handed a portable optical computer to Li Mingze. Your Majesty, according to our sampling and analysis of the surrounding planets, if this planet develops naturally, it should be in a state with only oceans and microorganisms, rather than being covered with vegetation like it is now. Li Mingze frowned. Are you saying that the evolution of this planet has been accelerated by humans? Yes, Your Majesty, the acceleration is not a little bit, but billions of years, the researcher replied respectfully. If an unknown civilization has transformed this star field into a terrestrial-like one, why doesn't anyone come to live and develop it? Li Mingze was a little confused, but it would be better to go down to the surface of the planet to take a look. We land on the planet. Li Mingze turned and walked towards the command seat. The exploration spacecraft slightly adjusted its angle, and the engine afterburner flew towards the surface of the planet. The shield outside the spacecraft rubbed against the atmosphere and turned into dazzling red. The animals on the surface of the planet looked up at the meteor falling from the sky. Some animals with simple IQs have begun to find a place to hide, leaving those stupid animals looking up at the fireball falling from the sky. The spacecraft will keep flying at low altitude. And the scientific researchers and the escort team will make a low-altitude airdrop. After saying that, Li Mingze stood up and walked towards the warehouse at the rear of the scientific research exploration ship. 6 guards and 5 researchers in the warehouse have already put on their power armor and are adjusting the 2 sci-fi armored vehicles in front of them, languid. In order to cope with different planetary environments, the armored vehicles use 2 driving methods, tires and anti-gravity. There is a narrow railgun on the low body, and there are 2 gauze machine guns above the railgun. Behind the turret is a collection of various detectors. Mingze got into the car from the side of the open armored vehicle, and everyone also entered their respective positions. After fastening their seat belts, the armored side door slowly fell down, and the originally dark interior lights lit up instantly. As the spacecraft gradually lowered, the rear hatch slowly opened, revealing the scenery outside, and the armored vehicle flew out. The scenery around the armored vehicle appeared on the circular screens around the car, as if it was not armor but in the air. After hovering in the air for a while, the 2 armored vehicles retracted their tires to the bottom and switched to anti-gravity mode. The 2 cars landed gently on the ground one after the other. Mingze opened the car door and got out, stretching his body. It's no wonder that the air here is much better than that in Sith. Several researchers also slowly dispersed to collect information under the protection of the guards. Mingze looked at the plants here and felt familiar, just like the plants on Earth. At this moment, bursts of gunfire came from not far away, followed by the sound of a giant falling to the ground. Mingze picked up his gun and walked over carefully, and found that several guards were pointing and talking around a huge unknown creature with bullet holes all over its body. This huge creature has 2 thick hind legs and atrophied front claws, and its huge body is covered with green hair. Several researchers took the scanner and circled around the creature. A 3D restoration image was formed on the tablet. Mingze tilted his head and was shocked. Isn't this a Tyrannosaurus Rex with hair? How could a Tyrannosaurus Rex appear on this planet? Dozens of sudden roars came from above the crowd, and dozens of creatures slid down from the rock wall not far away with their wings spread, flying towards the crowd. The armored vehicles that discovered the crisis sprayed these creatures flying in the sky, and bursts of blood rain fell. There were only a few creatures left in the sky, and they fled in all directions when they saw that the situation was not good. Mingze walked to a corpse with broken wings and frowned even deeper. This is the pterosaur that I saw in movies and TV dramas before, absolutely right. Creatures from the Jurassic period of the Earth appeared on this planet. Send out drones to scan this planet for me, and report to me all creatures over half a meter, Mingze ordered the communicator. Not far away, the scientific research exploration ship suspended in the sky slowly opened the armor on its abdomen, and dozens of drones swarmed out and dispersed in all directions. Mingze returned to the scientific research exploration ship with everyone and the huge corpse of the creature. A few hours later, he received a message from the drone. Dimetrodon, Stegosaurus, Forest Dragon, Triceratops, Brontosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Duck-crowned Dragon. As the familiar dinosaur photos of Mingze passed through the screen, Mingze became more and more uneasy. Why are there creatures from the Jurassic period hundreds of millions of years ago in a place that is unknown how many light years away from the Earth? And the air here is so close to the air composition of the Earth, even the temperature is not much different? Mingze always feels that there is some secret hidden in it, but the specifics can only be inferred after the exploration reports of other planets come out. The huge engine of the research ship sprayed flames and pushed the spacecraft into the starry sky. After the spacecraft reached the edge of the galaxy, it disappeared with a flash. Thank you for the rewards from Passing Dawu, Astronomy and Geography and Book Friend 229, and Faith in Heaven and Earth. Thank you all for your support. The encouragement of readers is the greatest affirmation and reward for me, and it is the motivation to support me to continue writing. I also thank those readers and friends who silently support me even though they did not leave a message. Thank you. Chapter 47 Eden Technology. On another habitable planet, Mingze sat on the edge of a cliff, drinking a drink. Behind him was a camp being built, and in front of the cliff was an endless huge lake. A huge planet was half exposed in the sky, and a group of long-necked dragons were playing in the lake. It was really the Jurassic period. Mingze threw the drink bottle in his hand down the cliff. The drink bottle came into contact with the lake water and slowly dissolved. He shook his calves in the wind, took out his mobile phone to take a few selfies of himself, and took a few more landscape photos and sent them to Tianyi. LMZ, how is the scenery? CXY, wow, it's better than the scenery on the new home planet. Where are you, LMZ? I followed a scientific research exploration ship out for a spin, and I'll bring you here when I have time. CXY, keep your word, "You're a liar, the little fool," and Chu Xiaoyan's arms raised his head and cooed, as if to ask why he called me. Chu Xiaoyan rubbed the little fool's head, and the little fool squinted his eyes comfortably and arched his arms in enjoyment. "That's right, Li Mingze sent Xiaosha by express delivery." After putting away the communicator, Li Mingze stood up and went to the temporary command center. "How is it going? Have you completed the exploration of the surrounding galaxies?" Li Mingze asked, straightening his clothes. "Your Majesty, although there are no connected habitable planets, we have found as many as 23 habitable planets within a radius of 10 light-years, a researcher reported. "Although we are in the inner part of the Milky Way, how can there be so many habitable planets? Even the species of organisms on the planets are exactly the same. There must be something wrong," Li Mingze said with a serious expression. "Your Majesty, you need to see this." The researcher handed the tablet in his hand to Li Mingze. Li Mingze took the tablet and studied it carefully. "Starting from this planet, these planets can be connected into a regular line according to the age of vegetation. It can be seen that as this line extends, the environment on the original planet becomes more and more young. Sure enough, these planets have been artificially transformed. And the interval between transformations is very long. If you follow this straight line to find it, you may be able to discover the secrets hidden in it. Start the spacecraft. Let's look along this line." Li Mingze turned and walked towards the scientific research exploration ship. The research ship roared away from the camp. 18 light-years away, at the edge of an unknown galaxy, a spacecraft rushed out of hyperspace. "Your Majesty, the planet ahead is being transformed." The researcher came to Li Mingze and reported respectfully. "Approach carefully, let's go and take a look." Li Mingze waved his hand. "Yes, Your Majesty." The driver on the side nodded and controlled the spacecraft to fly towards the target planet. As the spacecraft got closer and closer to the planet, Li Mingze saw that the side of the planet facing away from the star was full of lights. Obviously, some civilization is working on the planet. At this time on the unknown planet, huge machines thousands of meters high were moving slowly on the surface of the planet. 6 huge mechanical legs pressed traces on the ground. Their thousands of meters long bodies were covered with hexagonal exhaust holes. And a steady stream of carbon fluoride was discharged into the atmosphere from these exhaust holes. At the 2 poles of the planet, another squid-shaped machine was attached to the surface. Its huge body was constantly surging, and its metal armor made a harsh creaking sound. Soon, there would be an earthquake, followed by a huge column of water spraying out from the top of the squid. These liquid waters eventually gathered together to form rivers, flowing to the distant lakes, and then finally gathered into the sea through the lakes. Above the sea floated huge white diamond-shaped objects with a diameter of several thousand meters. These diamond-shaped objects stretched out the lower armor from time to time, and countless small capsules were poured into the ocean. Under the friction of the atmosphere, the Empire's drone flew to the Earth like a meteor. The giant machine not far away tilted its upper body slightly backward, and the armor on the front slowly opened, revealing tens of thousands of red mechanical compound eyes inside. But it did not make an attacking move, but closed the armor again, and stood up and continued to walk slowly on the ground. Li Mingze saw this scene through the lens of the drone and was shocked and speechless. Because such a huge machine, from the air, there are thousands of them crowded on this plane alone. Li Mingze dared not imagine how many such huge machines there are on the entire planet, but he saw that these machines did not attack the drones, and he didn't know whether they were not hostile or not equipped with weapons. On the other side of the planet that he could not observe, in a bottomless canyon, a huge needle-shaped building hundreds of thousands of meters long was inserted obliquely into the magma of the crack, and dozens of huge metal wings at the end of the needle-shaped object were gently shaking in the air. A small ball of light lit up in a room in the huge needle-shaped building, and countless data flowed from it. Unknown civilization aircraft was found. No attack behavior, stop attacking, and continue to implement Plan 023. A string of mysterious codes passed by alert. An unknown civilization spacecraft was found in the planet's orbit. After scanning, it was not a colonial spacecraft. Abandon destroying it. This civilization is classified as the 31st civilization that has not been eliminated. Continue to implement Plan 023. The light of the light ball in the room dimmed. Li Mingze on the orbit did not know that his substitute had walked through the gates of hell. At this time, he was wondering why the operators of these machines didn't contact him. Could it be that these machines were left here and no one cared? This is the scientific research exploration ship number 0019 of the Sith Empire. We express our friendship to the unknown civilization. A beam of information composed of multiple radio waves was sent to the mysterious planet in front of him. The light ball in the huge needle-shaped building lit up again. Receive the communication message from civilization number 31. We are looking for the answer from the backup vocabulary. The answer has been found. A moment later, a reply came from the planet. Hello, Sith Empire. According to your vocabulary, this is the Eden Technology Starfield. Please leave as soon as possible. Any unauthorized landing on the Eden Technology planet will be regarded as hostile. Mingze was shocked. He didn't know when the database on the spacecraft was invaded, and the other party learned Chinese. According to the provisions of Article 134,252,314,536 of the Galactic Congress, in order to prevent your civilization from making such low-level mistakes again in the future, we will provide you with the basic social frequencies of the galactic civilization that you don't know. Information came from the planet again, but it was obvious that they had learned the general situation of the Empire through the database. Then an encrypted data was transmitted to the spacecraft's supercomputer. Mingze had no choice but to order the scientific research spacecraft in the star field to evacuate urgently. If they were mistaken for invaders by the machines of Eden Technology, it would be a big trouble. A few days later, Mingze stood in a huge circular hall. In the center of the hall was a slowly rotating holographic projection of the Milky Way. Tianyi, you asked me to come and see the stars, Mingze asked, pointing to the countless small dots of light in front of him. The third update of this week will be at noon. Thank you for the reward from Zhongguolun brothers and sisters. Please throw the recommendations in your hands to the author. Chapter 48, Better to die in honor than to live in disgrace. The atmosphere in the Bald Eagle Command was very depressing. 6 space fighters. Costing $32 billion. Now there is only one left. Is the design department just for free? Let them continue to improve the performance of the fighters. Yes, sir. Above the equator, in the Red Dragon II spacecraft. What should we do? Our space fighters have been wiped out. Now we are just roasted suckling pigs on the table, Mingze said anxiously. We must not let them get the alien spacecraft. Even if we all die, Guomo's eyes were full of determination. I have a way, Ball said after thinking for a while. We just need to remove the core in the middle, and then remove some parts on the spacecraft. After some assembly, we can make a simple version of the fission weapon. Ball was an engineer and scientist on board who participated in the engine manufacturing. He was very familiar with the structure of the engine. Let's do it. Let's go. After saying that, Guomo floated to the kinetic energy warehouse of the spacecraft, and Ball and Mingze followed firmly. In the kinetic energy warehouse, Guomo and the other two stared blankly at the huge reactor in front of them. Let's do it, Guomo made up his mind. The three put on the helmets of the spacesuits, sealed them, and turned on the searchlights on the spacesuits. After looking at each other, Guomo and Mingze pulled down the reactor controller together. With the sound of the turbine stopping, the reactor indicator light in front of the three people changed from green to blue. Alarm, the spacecraft reactor is shut down. The battery will lose power in 2 hours and all life support facilities will stop operating. The system alarm sounded in the spacecraft. The three turned a deaf ear to the alarm, took out the maintenance tools they carried, and disassembled them under the command of Ball. The three carefully extracted a huge core as thick as an adult's waist from the reactor. Beep, beep, the radiation detectors on the spacesuits kept ringing, as if they were about to explode at any time. We have to hurry up, the radiation from this core is starting to leak. Guomo lifted the head of the core, while Angel and Ball lifted the tail and floated out of the cabin. With a click, the airlock door of the Red Dragon II slowly opened, and the gas in the cabin leaked out. 3 white figures lifted a silver cylinder and floated out of the cabin. Hurry up. The Bald Eagle fighter is very close to us, Guomo said anxiously in the communication channel. You guys send it into the alien spacecraft first, I'll go dismantle the other parts. Angel handed the wrench in his hand to Ball, and floated towards the outer circle of the Red Dragon II. Only 300 kilometers away from the Red Dragon II. The only remaining aerospace fighter of the Bald Eagle slowly slowed down and flew towards the Red Dragon II. 30 seconds to arrive. Everyone get ready, the driver shouted into the communicator, and the soldiers in the rear cabin checked their equipment. As the fighter slowly slowed down, the driver could clearly see the huge outline of the alien spacecraft on the display. We didn't encounter any resistance. "It's a little strange, you have to be careful," the driver said to the soldiers in the rear cabin. The soldiers in the rear cabin filed out of the airlock doors on both sides of the fighter and floated towards the Red Dragon II not far away. Safe, safe. Several soldiers put down their weapons, and the entire spaceship was empty. Where did these astronauts from the Alliance hide? Maybe they are hiding in the alien spaceship, the soldier who spoke said through the window of the spaceship looking at the alien spaceship not far away. At this time, in the alien spaceship, Ball assembled the last part of the fission weapon. The three of them sat in a circle holding hands, and Guomo held a switch of the bomb in his hand. A team of bald eagle soldiers appeared in the corridor not far from the cabin where the three were. This scene was seen by Guomo through the newly installed camera. Guomo smiled lightly. "Are you ready?" Yingdir and Ball nodded. "Ready." "Press it." At this time, the team of soldiers opened the door of this room. Guomo turned his head and smiled at the team of soldiers, saying softly, "The Alliance will win." Then, in the stunned eyes of several bald eagle soldiers, he pressed the button in his hand fiercely. The bald eagle soldiers who noticed something was wrong wanted to rush over and grab the button, but it was too late. The core of the reactor was activated and soon reached a critical point. The green signal light turned into dazzling white. Several bald eagle soldiers only saw a dazzling white light and were turned into ashes by the high temperature. Huge energy was stimulated, but because it was trapped in a small environment, its destructive power was doubled. In just a few seconds, the entire alien spacecraft was blown into thousands of fragments by the violent explosion and flew to the Earth and the boundless space. At this time, the President and others in the White House were shocked by the Alliance's actions. They worked hard and went to war just to seize this alien spacecraft, but they were blown up by the Alliance. They are hindering the progress of human civilization. Bald Eagle President Garcia felt that there was a pool of blood in his throat that wanted to spurt out. What was the purpose of the war that he had wagered everything on? If he could get that spaceship, then even if he lost the war, he would be fine, and he could get a large pension. But now it's all over. Nothing left. Don't look at the 3 wars where the Bald Eagle was winning one victory after another, but that was achieved at a huge cost by using sneak attacks. Once the Pan-Earth Alliance recovers, it's not certain who will win. Mr. President, this war must be fought, the Minister of Defense said in a heavy tone. If they can't win this war and don't get the alien spaceship, everyone will be driven out of office and sent to prison, and then the consortium behind them will make them disappear from this world. Well, increase the recruitment efforts and declare a wartime system. After saying that, Garcia slumped in his chair, leaned his head on the back of the chair and closed his eyes, obviously not wanting to say anything more. Seeing that the president didn't want to talk anymore, the other people got up and left the secret meeting room. The next day, the Bald Eagle dispatched 3 more aircraft carrier fleets to the South China Sea, and sent the remaining 5 fleets to Europe. In this battle, the Bald Eagle deployed 13 aircraft carrier fleets, leaving only 2 aircraft carrier fleets to guard the Bald Eagle homeland. At the same time, the countries hit by the debris began to fight with the Bald Eagle CIA. They wanted to ensure that the debris would not be sent out of the country by Bald Eagle spies or agents. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. I am the protagonist. Sun Wei is an ordinary college graduate, but after graduation he couldn't find a job because he graduated from a fake university. He was bored and could only stay at home to read novels and play games, becoming a complete otaku. Sometimes he fantasized that the plot on the novel could happen to him, that some system would possess him and lead him to the peak of his life, and that he would marry a beautiful, rich woman. That night, he was enjoying the cool in the suburban courtyard left to him by his grandparents, when suddenly a meteor flew towards him through the thick clouds with dazzling light. This made him very excited. Isn't this the treatment of the protagonist in the novel? He must have a lot of luck today. If he picked up a system, wouldn't that be the rhythm of reaching the peak of his life? With a huge roar, the meteor hit the field not far from his yard with flames, and a huge shock came from the ground. Sun Wei immediately pulled off the coat on the hanger, put it on randomly, and hurried to the place where the meteor fell. In less than 5 minutes, he saw a huge meteorite crater in the distant farmland. The shock wave blew all the corn stalks around to the ground, and there were sporadic flames in the meteorite crater. Sun Wei ran to the side of the pit quickly, and with his sharp eyes, he saw a hint of metal color in a massive chart unknown materials. The metal-colored unknown object was a cube, and there was no crack on the surface. Excited, he climbed down the meteorite crater with his hands and feet. Looking at the unknown meteorite with hot air in front of him, Sun Wei gritted his teeth, took off his coat and wrapped it in his hand, and touched the metal-colored unknown object. Unexpectedly, it was not hot. He quickly stuffed the metal block into his pocket and ran home. When he returned home, Sun Wei carefully looked around, made sure that no one was there, and flashed into the house, and quickly locked the doors and windows. Sun Wei carefully took the metal block out of his pocket, and the metal block felt a burst of cold air in his hand. How do you use this? Drip blood? Or charge it first? Sun Wei scratched his head in confusion. He made up his mind and took a fruit knife from the kitchen, cut his finger hard, and bright red blood flowed out of the wound. He quickly pressed the bloody finger on the metal block, and embarrassed him that nothing happened. Shaking his head, he unwillingly inserted the 2 power cords into the plug, ready to try whether he could charge the power. After putting the 2 wires on the metal block, something surprising happened. Dozens of sky blue currents appeared on the surface of the silver metal block, which made Sun Wei very excited. Just like that, dozens of minutes passed. Billy Bala, Sun Wei, who was waiting desperately, finally heard the voice from the mysterious metal block. Can you understand what I'm saying? Although he couldn't understand it, it didn't affect Sun Wei's enthusiasm at all. It is absorbing low-level energy, and it is expected to open up a computing performance of 0.00031. A moment later, the metal block sent him a familiar Chinese. Sun Wei was completely excited. Isn't this the legendary alien system? After going through some time and space flow, it is already insufficient in energy, and needs to be constantly upgraded by himself. And it will bring countless alien technologies to him. Sun Wei thought of the company he founded dominating the world, building space elevators, manufacturing space stations, having his own private guards, and secretly controlling a country. He could even have a harem of women. Thinking of this, his saliva flowed down. What's your name? Sun Wei asked the metal cube carefully. I'm a third-level shipborne intelligent brain from the Parker Alliance. The sound of the metal ball has its unique metallic magnetism. Sun Wei was so excited. Did you hear it? The Parker Alliance shipborne intelligent brain. It sounds so high-end. What functions do you have, or what technologies do you have? Sun Wei asked again expectantly. If you connect this machine to the internet, you will get all the network resources. Sun Wei was so excited. Even if there is no alien technology, if he connects it to the internet, then he will be the god of the internet, and Baoteo and Google can go to hell. He seemed to see himself standing on the top floor of a skyscraper hundreds of meters high, and the beautiful secretary next to him asked him when he would acquire Google. He was so excited just thinking about it. The next morning, just after daybreak, there was a knock at the big iron gate in the yard. Who is it? So early in the morning, Sun Wei rubbed his eyes and walked to the gate and asked, SF Express. Your express has arrived, come and sign for it. A young man's voice came from outside the door. Oh, I'll be right there. It seems that the clothes I bought have arrived. This courier is really dedicated to delivering them so early. He pulled out the bolt of the iron gate and was about to open the door. At this moment, the door was kicked open, and a group of soldiers wearing black chemical protective clothing and tactical bulletproof vests rushed in. Several of the soldiers pointed their guns at Sun Wei's forehead, and another soldier stepped forward to handcuff Sun Wei, who was pressed to the ground. The others carefully moved into the room. After a while, a voice came from inside the house. Found the target. 4 soldiers, also wearing protective clothing, walked in carrying a metal box. After a while, several people carried the box and left the courtyard. Sun Wei could guess what the group of people took away without thinking. It must be the alien intelligent brain he picked up yesterday. What are you doing? This is my home. What do you want? He said toughly. You have to know that this is the internet age. As long as a video is circulated on the internet, the person involved will be very tragic. Unfortunately, the soldier who held him down ignored him. After the soldier carrying the box boarded the armored vehicle parked at the door, he slowly spoke. Sun Wei, right? You are suspected of endangering national security, suspected of being a spy for foreign forces, and illegally stealing state secrets. Hereby announces, you are arrested. We will notify your family later. Now you have to go with us. After that, 2 soldiers came up and held Sun Wei on the left and right, and took him to the armored vehicle. More than a dozen armored vehicles, escorted by helicopters in the air, drove towards the Sunshin secret base in the distance. 2 hours later, in the isolation room of the Sunshin secret base, several people in chemical protective suits were taking blood tests on Sun Wei. Mr. Sun Wei, I have some very bad news to tell you. In the monitoring room separated by a wall, an officer slowly spoke to Sun Wei through the microphone after reading the blood test report. Woo. Sun Wei, who was gagged and handcuffed to the chair, struggled twice and made an unexplained sound. The officer ignored what he said and continued, unfortunately, I have to inform you that according to our detection, the alien object you picked up was thrown to the earth in a nuclear explosion. This piece of metal is full of deadly radiation, and the radiation level has reached 10 sieverts. You don't have many days left. After saying that, the officer shook his head regretfully and walked out of the observation room. Sun Wei in the isolation room looked ashen. Why did the promised adventure turn out like this? But no one went to answer his questions. Thank you for the reward from Big Eyes and Double Eyelids. Please recommend and collect. Chapter 50 The Open Pandora's Box. Very good, you passed the test. What we just connected to the virtual internet is now connected to the real internet. The researcher winked at the assistant beside him. The assistant understood and connected the second simulated internet to the supercomputer. Beep, internet access detected, please give instructions. It was still such a harmless voice. Everyone present applauded. It seemed that this intelligent brain was restricted by the original rules and would not get out of control. This means that America can completely control the alien intelligent brain. And the national strength of America, which has mastered the alien intelligent brain, will be greatly improved. The attack accuracy and coordination of fighter jets, armored vehicles, and warships controlled by the intelligent brain will be unparalleled. And not needing a large number of staff salaries allows America to spend money on the blade. Not only that, the entire American industry can be replaced by robots. The world will usher in the era of America. Everyone physically isolated the intelligent brain and gathered together to prepare for a grand celebration. Perhaps no one on the earth knows what kind of monster America has activated. However, this monster is hidden very deeply, and no one has discovered anything wrong yet. This intelligent computer is executing Article 36 of the Occupation Agreement. The content of this agreement is that if the intelligent computer is connected to a system that is not part of the Parker Alliance, it will try to occupy this system for the Parker Alliance. Now this intelligent computer does not know that the Alliance has been annexed by the Empire, and the target it is loyal to has disappeared, and it still serves the Parker Alliance loyally. Using light waves to generate codes to invade the base host, a screen facing the surveillance camera began to flash wildly. The camera turned images of different brightness and colors into codes and transmitted them to the base host. The base security system is being cracked. The system has been cracked and the control program is being implanted. Start using the local area network to access all electronic devices. All devices have been connected. In a corner of the control room that no one noticed, a monitor lit up and then went silent. The staff in the base did not know that the base had fallen into the control of this alien intelligent computer. Go and invite Mr. President and the Minister of Defense and others to attend this celebration banquet, the head of the base instructed the secretary beside him. The secretary nodded and left the room with the documents. At 8 o'clock that night, Air Force One drew a graceful arc in the air and aimed its nose at the open runway entrance on the slope of the mountain. Under the command of the ground tower, the plane landed steadily on the runway in the mountain. After a short taxiing, the plane stopped firmly, and a moving escalator opened from the side and connected to the aircraft cabin door. The President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Chairman of the Department of Defense, and some generals got off the plane. The person in charge of the base hurriedly came forward to greet everyone one by one and let everyone into the base. No one noticed that the door of the hangar was tightly closed without anyone controlling it, and the huge safety lock fell heavily. After seeing this, several sentinels in charge of controlling the door just shook their heads. It seems that the security system developed by Umbrella Company is not very good and has broken down again. The logistics personnel in the base had arranged the banquet venue early. In the huge restaurant, all the long tables were covered with white tablecloths. Soothing music was playing in the restaurant, and plates of exquisite snacks were brought to the table. Champagne was poured into high-heeled glasses arranged in a pyramid shape. Female soldiers dressed in gorgeous dresses walked among the crowd. Zoo Parker's parents were both senior officers in the United States. He followed in his father's footsteps and joined the American Army. At the age of 29, he was already a lieutenant colonel and the captain of the guard guarding the alien intelligent computer room. It was not his duty today, so he was also qualified to attend the cocktail party. Zoo Parker clinked glasses with a beautiful female soldier in front of him and drank the champagne in his hand. This was his fifth glass of wine, and now his head felt a little dizzy. He staggered to the bathroom on the west side of the banquet hall, opened the door of the toilet cubicle, sat on the toilet and fell asleep. In the restaurant, President Garcia knocked on the goblet with a spoon, making a pleasant sound. Everyone quieted down and looked at the president. Everyone, welcome to this celebration party. After our unremitting efforts, we have finally achieved today's results. We in America have obtained and mastered the alien super-intelligent brain. As long as we connect robots, fighter planes, tanks, and warships to the control of the intelligent brain, we will not have to sacrifice another American boy. Our combat capabilities will be greatly improved. Super precise shooting and unparalleled coordination skills will allow our American Army to dominate the world. Let us welcome the arrival of a new era. Cheers! Garcia finished drinking the champagne. The people in the audience applauded enthusiastically. After the applause stopped, everyone raised their glasses in their hands. Cheers! Suddenly, bursts of gunfire came from outside the corridor. Everyone was shocked. What's going on? Is there anyone in the heart of America who dares to attack the base? After a while, the door of the hall opened to both sides by itself. Several semi-finished armed robots that were being tested walked into the banquet hall from the open door. The red compound eyes of several robots scanned everyone in the restaurant, and the miniature Gatling machine guns on their shoulders began to rotate. The shadow of death enveloped everyone, and everyone began to flee in panic. Open the door. Open the door. Let me in. I don't want to die. An obese official couldn't stand the stimulation and twisted the door handle of the toilet desperately, and light yellow liquid flowed down his trouser legs. But the alien intelligent brain had just controlled the opening and closing of all the doors, and no matter how hard the fat official tried, he couldn't open the door of the toilet. Several female soldiers in gorgeous clothes hid behind the overturned dining table in fear, hoping that this thick dining table could help them block the fatal bullets. In a moment, the light Gatling guns spewed out deadly flames, and the flying bullets formed a metal storm. The bodies of several officials lying on the ground were torn into pieces of meat by the metal storm. The people hiding behind the table were not spared. The bullets easily tore open the seemingly thick metal dining table. The official in charge of logistics was still thinking before he died that if he could walk out alive, he would definitely sue the merchants who sold these inferior dining tables. Unfortunately, he had no chance. The metal storm instantly smashed him into pieces while he was hiding behind the table. A few dozen seconds later, the entire restaurant seemed to have become a hell on earth. The floor, walls, and ceiling were covered with scarlet blood and meat scraps. The robots that were about to enter the bathroom to deal with the last bug suddenly stopped, as if they had received some instructions. They all stopped in place, and the red light in their eyes slowly dissipated. Shepard, who was awakened by the fierce gunshots, rubbed his hazy eyes, slowly got up from the toilet, pushed open the door of the cubicle and walked to the sink. He scooped up a handful of water to wash his face, washed away the haziness, and turned to open the bathroom door that was shot into a sieve shaped by bullets. Wait! Why did the door become like this? He slowly turned his head and looked at the sink that was shattered, and only a sink was left to support it, his face full of horror. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.